This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. I'd like to call to order the Taos County Board of County Commissioners Commission Special Meeting of Wednesday, July 27th, 2022. And for the record, it is 8:47. And please call for the vote, Ms. Tammy.
Commissioner Fambro,
Present.
Commissioner Gallegos, Chair Vigil,
Present.
Vice Chair Brush,
Present.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Present.
And Pledge of Allegiance by County Manager, please. Would you do us the honor?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I will go ahead and do the salute to the flag, the salute to the flag of New Mexico. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Thank you. Moving on to item 5, approval of agenda. Commissioners?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to approve the agenda with moving 8A up after citizens' concerns. And this is to allow PA Balsamo to talk a little bit about Matt.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner O'Donnell and a second by Vice Chair Brush to move item 8A right after 6, after citizens' concerns. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Brush,
Yes.
Chair Vigil.
Yes. Okay, and next we'll move on to that 8, citizens' concerns. And I don't see anyone here, but I'm going to go ahead just in case someone is on there and we can't see them. Public comment, for public comment, please phone in to 575-737-6310. Citizens wishing to speak shall limit their comments to 3 minutes and no action may be taken. And so anyone here in the chambers would like to chime in during public comments? Seeing none, anyone virtually? Please unmute yourself. Seeing none, let's go on to item 8A, which is discussion, consideration, and decision regarding TCC 2022-32 Core Health PLLC for the amount of 1,001,052.89 exclusive of New Mexico GRT, payments to be made in 12 monthly installments for on-site medical care for detainees at the Taos County Detention Center. And Mr. County Manager, are you going to start, or who's?
Madam Chair, this is solely so if you would allow a Balsamo to talk about Matt.
Okay, please come forward and welcome. It's good to see you.
Thanks for inviting us. Appreciate that. I'm not good at parliamentary.
You turn your mic on. There you go.
No problem.
There we go. Thank you again, commissioners. Not great at parliamentary procedure, but I appreciate being invited up. Just wanted to, first I'll just introduce myself. I'm Abe Balsamo. I'm the physician assistant. I've been working in the jail here for about 5 years through 3 or 4 contracts, depending how you count them. Wanted to give a little bit of perspective on Matt's in Taos generally and what we're doing in the jail itself. So big picture, Matt's should be a holistic approach. We need the whole community involved. It's not just the jail. If it's just the jail, we have a huge hole. We cause a lot more problems than good with Matt's. Matt's is medically assisted treatment. And when we look at it, it should be patient-centered. It should not be just my job. It should not be just the primary care's job, etc. We need everybody to buy in to make it work. And that's, if you go to SAMHSA, who has all the definitions at the federal level, what MATS is, the very first line is it's a holistic approach. It cannot be just done by one place. So in Taos, for perspective, mats can be started anywhere. There's no wrong door to start. Okay, so it can be started with the primary care, it can be started in the emergency room, could be started in the jail, could be started in a treatment facility, etc. Wherever it starts, though, it cannot end. And that's the problem we have here in Taos. I know the emergency department has said, hey, we can start it, which means we'll give you the first dose. Then they clear you and they send you out either to the primary care in the county, or if they're coming to the jail, they send you to the jail and there's no communication, number one. We don't have the communication. We don't know what was given in the ER most of the times. This is an issue we've been fighting with for 5 years, trying to get documentation. But also, this, as we all know, the community, the correctional community, the people that are involved in this world, it's a little bit of a revolving door, unfortunately. We see the same people over and over. That means they're not there for very long in most cases. So what do I do if I were to start mats in the jail? I have no one to hand off to. If you go to your primary care and you call them, you all know in this town, it's 3 months out. Well, if I start an opiate, because that's what mats is, 3 out of the 4 medications that we use are opiates. If you read about them, it sounds great. They're not going to go into withdrawals from their opiates. They're going to have less cravings, etc. Well, that's because you're replacing their opiates with opiates. So you're telling me I should start an opiate, but I got nowhere to send them. They have 3 months. So the minute they get out of jail, they go back into withdrawal. They have nowhere to get their medications. If they have nowhere to get their medications, they're going to go to the street. And now they're back in the system again. This is the issue that we have with mats. If it's not a holistic approach, if we're not all on the same page, if there's holes, it just doesn't work. And there's lots of documentation. This has been well studied. The systems that work are all in the same room at the same time. We need the ER here. I need the primary care here. I need more providers in this town that are able to give those medications. That's the other part is, historically, primary care can only have 30 patients. That is being lifted, I think, as we speak, for some types of providers, primary care in general, that limitation. That being said, this town doesn't have enough primary care providers. The real way to do it, and the way they're doing it in the big cities, is they have clinics that this is what they do, you know? And this is where our different treatment centers could get involved. They have medical directors. They can provide these things. But where did the funds come from? In New Mexico, while you're in jail, you can't use Medicaid. You can't use Medicare. You can't use your private insurance. That falls on the county. That falls on whoever's working there. So that's the other issue, is who's paying for this? So just wanted to give that perspective, high level. From Core Health's perspective and just related to contracts, we saw the RFP last year come out that didn't end up going to anybody. That had mats in it. This new RFP does not have mats in it. And I think the reason is somebody figured out we just can't do it. There's not enough money to go around. There's not enough providers to go around. And we're going to cause more issues if we're starting opiates in the jail. Ultimately, we're going to cause more issues for the community because there's nowhere to send them afterwards. I don't have follow-up. I don't have a warm handoff. So just wanted to give that perspective. Yeah. I don't know if you need any more from me.
Commissioner's question?
Yes, could you tell us who the two primary care providers that are doing this? And again, under state law, currently federal law, you can only have 30
on your panel.
On.
And I believe that's in transition, but that's historically been the case. You could only have a maximum of 30 patients on your panel. In this town, Taos Medical Group, to my knowledge, has one provider who's full, Dr. Kaufman, Jemry Kaufman, and El Centro is kind of piecemeal. They have one provider that I know of that is doing it regularly, and a couple of providers that will take a patient here or a patient there. They're nurse practitioners, and I don't know that they're as comfortable with it, so they don't have a full panel. Also, again, it's every primary care in this town is saturated with patients. So to take on more patients as needed, you know, right now I need somebody to hand off to. It's really, really hard to do.
So that's what I wanted to explain, that, and if we were to do it and then let inmates out, currently there's a 3-month waiting period. So it's a holistic approach. I wanted to clarify and correct some of the things I said now that I understand. Even if we had the money, we couldn't do it right now because we don't have enough primary care to hand off. They don't want to do it, I guess, obviously. And it's just, again, we see the whole system is broken.
I would say right now it is broken. We do detox here. We get people off of those medications and those street drugs, etc. But you need the other pieces. You need the counseling. You need the therapy. You need the primary care involvement. You need the treatment centers to not be so expensive. I can't send somebody to the Mesa for $30,000 a month. Right. This is not the community to do that. Somebody from Hollywood can do that. Not my friends.
Yeah, thank you for your perspective. Certainly is good to hear that. And it sounds like it's going to take some additional conversations with people at the table, trying to figure out a solution.
I think so.
Yes, Commissioner Vice Chair.
And thank you, Madam Chair. That tees up my question nicely. And thank you so much. You've made it extremely clear, and it makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering if there are conversations in our community about how perhaps we can start putting the pieces together and can start providing solutions that address this need. So I don't know if you're aware of, are there conversations happening between providers and you and us?
There certainly are. Team Builders is coming back into the community. A couple others are coming in under the umbrella of 988, which is our new mental health emergency line, 911 for mental health, essentially. There's movement, but it's way disjointed from my perspective. We're not all at the same table. We're not on a unified technology platform. Nobody knows what anybody else is doing. It's all siloed. I know there's good people in this town and they all want to do it, but they're doing it on their own. And that's the issue. You got to get everybody on the same page. That holistic approach is so important with something like this.
Yeah, those silos have to be
They have to be broken.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, the change from only having 30 patients, is that a federal legislative possibility, or is that?
It's coming federally. So it's coming through SAMHSA. SAMHSA pushed it at the federal level through legislation. It looks like it'll go through. I'm not sure if it'll just affect doctors, DOs and MDs, or if it'll filter down to PAs and NPs who are also providing medications. I mean, right now PAs and NPs can prescribe opiates. Why can't they prescribe the treatment for opiates, essentially, at least at a high level? And so it's going to, states also have to pass those legislations too. So these are all the things we're fighting with up above.
So Abe, what's your solution or what's your suggestion at this point? Is it just gathering everyone and having a real conversation about, what's happening, what's not happening, and how it needs to be addressed?
Yeah, I think
to
so.
Try to get those silos, to break those down?
I think so. I think we all need to be on the same page. It's too much blaming. You aren't doing this and you aren't doing that, and why aren't you doing this and why aren't you doing that? But nobody knows what we're actually doing. I don't see anybody in the jail watching what I'm doing every single day. They hear me push back when I say, I'm not going to start mats, even though you started it in the ER and you gave them one pill, those kind of things. Or, I can't just start that, and so I do think we need to be on the same page. We all have to be in the same room. And the short-term fix that I've seen work in a couple places, and you'd have to have buy-in from the community, Taos Medical Group, El Centro, IHS, etc., is have 2 or 3 open slots on your schedule every single day where you can do this with a provider that's willing to do it. But they would have to open those slots every single day. They have to be slots specifically for that, so that you have enough bandwidth to take care of these people in real time, because it's intensive. It's not, I'm going to give you some meds and I'll see you in 6 months, like a lot of our medical problems are. It's, I'm going to give you some meds and I'll see you tomorrow. And then I'm going to see you tomorrow. And then I'm going to see you tomorrow until you get stabilized.
And Madam Chair, what I hear is an answer is it's really the primary care. We need to get more on board because it's a licensing issue. You have to be a PA or a doctor or nurse practitioner.
A nurse practitioner, yep.
And then we have to get the hospital on board, because the hospital would need to be able to administer that daily.
Right, and I believe the ER has providers that are trained to start that treatment. But again, there's too many holes in between. You can't just be the person who starts it. We got to have that whole continuum of care.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your perspective. And Vice Chair, did you have something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One last question for you. What do you need from us? What's your request of us at the county? What can we do to help perhaps move this along?
Sure. So I think, big picture, countywide, we know this is a problem. We all know this is a problem. Law enforcement knows. You guys obviously know. The hospital knows. They're seeing huge amounts of overdoses and drug-related things all day long. And we're seeing it in the jails. Really, it is, I think we need a committee with all of the people on it. We did this with COVID. We had a huge COVID committee, and we made some good discussions, good decisions. We were able to keep Taos safer anyway. I think in the same vein, we need all those stakeholders in the same place. So really, I think if that can be coordinated, that would be huge.
Well, thank you. And commissioners, just just to remind us that we don't want to get too much off topic, but thank you for your perspective and just trying to make sure that we're within our realm of what's on the agenda. So thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, this was very insightful, and I always trust Abe. He's a Redlands graduate, and he is a Cubs fan, so I always trust him. But we must move to the agenda topic, and that's either to approve or disapprove the contract.
Thank you, Commissioner Fambro, and for confirming that. So, but thank you. Okay, so commissioners, what are your wishes at this point?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to table 8A, discussion, consideration, decision regarding TC 2022-32, Core Health. This agenda item until the warden is available.
Okay, commissioners, is there a second? And I will go ahead and second that. So there's a motion to table by Commissioner O'Donnell and a second from me. And so with that being said, call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Fambro,
Yes.
Commissioner Gallegos,
Yes, Madam Chair, I ask that for the next meeting we have, while we table this, that everybody's in the room, I guess, as far as all the other participating parties that need to be there. Hopefully we can do some good.
Okay, great point. Thank you.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Vigil.
Yes. Okay, next we're moving on to budget matters. Item 7A, review and approval of the fourth quarter financial report, 2022-2023, fiscal year final budget. And with us is Antonio Fresquez and Elsa Vigil, interim finance directors. Good morning.
Fourth quarter report. So we'll start off, I guess, with the pie chart for the general fund revenue. Last year, we brought in $60,490,179.82. As you can see by the breakdown.
Antonio, I'm sorry, can you put your mic on?
Oh, sorry.
It just needs to be turned on. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, there we go. We're good.
Yeah.
All right. I speak loud anyway, so you
Yeah.
have it. So as you can see by the pie chart, property taxes brought in about 78% of that revenue. GRTs was slightly increased from last year, which is now at 12%. All the other breakdowns are like other fees that we collect, admin fees, certain things from the other departments. So that gets funneled into the general fund. There's actually a breakdown of the fees on the next page when you get into general fund and the revenues that come in. So then if we go to Now our expenditures, we'll see the first one is the governing body. So that one, as far as expenditures, we spent about 85% of our budget. That was budgeted in final budget. To me, mostly everything got expensed. There was a couple items like, of course, like health insurance and other things that basically those are some of the vacancies. So that's why we didn't expend that out of the budget.
Antonio, if we could ask questions as you go along.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Okay,
my
and
apologies.
just out of curiosity, you said 85% was expended this year?
Right.
Do you know what that was last year, so we can have a comparison?
I don't.
You
So
don't?
this is just the fourth quarter.
The fourth quarter, got it.
Correct.
Okay.
This ain't
Okay.
final budget. So this is basically,
Yeah, and the question would still
It's
remain the same,
basic-
what was it last year, but got it.
Yeah. So like I said, coming into this position, I can't speak on what my predecessor did last year. So that's why I don't have his fourth quarter numbers or Lupe's, depending on who submitted it last year. So the next sheet would be the county probate, which she expended 97% of her budget. Most of hers is for her salary and Medicare and all that stuff as well.
Sorry, are we looking at the fourth quarter presentation?
Correct.
Correct.
And what,
It's on.
I know, but what page are you on?
So these ones aren't really numbered.
Page 7 of the PDF.
Gent
Is it
County
7, Hunters?
probate, I'm just,
So yeah, I'm on page 7.
okay, got it. Okay, thanks.
So probate, like I said, they have a small budget, typically goes into her salary and, benefits and that type stuff. She does have a little, no, actually, she doesn't even have a supply budget because it comes out of our budget for purchasing, so.
It's very minimal.
Okay, any questions on probate? No? Okay, so then the next one, we move on to county assessor. Out of their budget, they spent about 92% of their budget. Again, most of their budget goes to salaries, benefits. They do have a small budget for like maintenance and stuff like that, which it looks like they expended most of that. Maybe on contractual, they had a little bit left over, but for the most part, they utilized majority of their budget. Any questions on?
Other than just a quick comment that I noticed that the difference didn't appear. I'm sure it's just a formula error, but some of the changes from last year to this year, typically you have the comparison, right? And if you'll notice it, I just want to.
Oh, it didn't carry over to that next column?
Yeah, just so you can see that it's missing.
Okay.
I mean, we obviously can look at last year's and this year's and see that comparison. I just
Right.
wanted to point it out.
Yeah, and again, it's probably just it didn't carry over to the next column. My apologies. Any other comments or questions? Move on to
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Commissioner Gagos here. Mr. Vasquez, is there funding still available for her to update any equipment or get any new equipment that she may be able to utilize in the future for
So again,
these field? Is there going to be any money carrying over?
so this is the fourth quarter that pretty much closes out the year. So whatever
Right.
we anticipate for final budget, that's going to be the new budget created. Maybe Bryce.
Commissioner Gagos, your question would be better served when we go on to the
Entire budget?
the budget, the new budget. You could ask that question then about equipment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Just wanted to see if she used up some monies in that fourth quarter to buy any equipment, so that we were prepared to either add more to it or not have to touch it. But that's cool. I can wait. I'll ask that question later. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and I know it's kind of like even when we're working on it, it kind of goes hand in hand. Like we had to do them simultaneously, so I can see why in some questions, you might get a little confused as to which which budget it pertains to. What I'm presenting today is just closing out then the last fiscal year. So moving on to county clerk, out of their budget, they spent about 87% of their budget. Again, I don't know why some of these they didn't carry over, but probably just a spreadsheet error. Most of their budget again was expensed through salaries and benefits. The little bit that left over again was probably the insurances, which it looks like this sheet.
And Antonio, just also for the record, and I'm sure it's just a typo as well, but just want to point it out on the top where it says dollar change actual fiscal year 2022 versus 2022.
Right.
So it's just.
No, that's actually accurate.
Is that correct?
That is accurate. Yeah.
You were asking me earlier to apply to the final.
Yes.
The final new budget.
Because basically on this sheet, what
yes,
you're comparing is you're comparing final budget from
2022 to
actuals.
2020. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, so that is accurate.
My apologies.
Yeah, no worries.
makes
Any other
sense.
questions for clerks? Okay, then moving on to the sheriff's budget. He expends about 91% of his budget. Again, where the 8% or the 9% actually probably is his vacancies as well. Full-time and all his benefits. This one actually does show the change column on the side, so that one did carry over. So his expenditures total were about $3 million, which is, Sheriff's Department is a big chunk of our expenditures that come out of the general fund. Is there any questions on sheriff's? Okay, moving on to the treasurer. They expensed about 80% of their budget. Again, that difference is salaries as well and benefits. They're kind of still short-staffed as well, so that's why that number would be a lot higher if they had all their positions filled. Is there any questions, comments on that?
What's the vacancy?
Yeah, so when we budget for salaries, we take into account all their positions and we do create the budget that way, just in case they do fill them. We want to make sure we have the cash available to pay out these people. So at the end of the year, when you don't have those positions filled, then that creates that savings. Okay, moving on to county manager, spent about 83% of the budget. Again, this one was due to the savings as well, vacancies, the other deputy county manager position had become available, so that's why they didn't expense theirs. Any question on that one? Okay, moving on to general administration, spent about 92% of their budget. Again, vacancies, that's why it's at 92%. So we did have some vacancy savings on that one. Any questions? No. Okay, moving on to attorney. They spent about 62% of their budget. Most of that is budgeted again into salaries, into having a full-time attorney here on staff. We all know that we contract that out. That's why we only expense 62% of that budget, because we actually do budget for an in-house attorney and we contract that out. So that's why the savings is that huge on that one.
And Madam Chair, Mr. Fresquez, can I ask a question? Is the contract attorney what is reflected in the line 55, contract professional services?
Yes, that is correct.
And
yeah, and we actually contract, well, as you know, two different ones, Randy and then Rose.
So even with that, we've spent only 62% of our budget in this last quarter?
Correct.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, moving on to finance. So this is our area. We spent about 92% of our budget. Again, we're short as well. So those are vacancy savings too that we have. Same thing with the benefits and all the other stuff that goes along with it. Our budget, we mostly use to pay out all the utilities for the county. What else? Insurances and some other type things that we take care of on our side as far as our budget.
Does this include the community centers and the
Yes.
bills that we do?
Yes, we pay all the utilities for the community centers out of our budget as well.
There's a couple that are working on cleaning over, so.
Got it, okay.
So for the most part, everything except for Casco.
Okay, and, okay.
Yeah,
and
but
then-
we pay the electric, the propane, the,
We clarify Tapa and Casco are the only ones that we don't pay stuff for. We pay some stuff in Casco.
Okay, got it, thank you.
okay, any other questions in the finance?
So, Madam Chair, if I may, our electricity costs, reflects the total amount of over $500,000 a year.
Well, that actually includes, no, that is our electricity, so you're correct.
Okay.
Yes, electricity is very expensive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, yeah, exactly. What else iterated is we pay for the jail, that's 24/7, and other
Right.
buildings that are,
Makes sense.
yeah, the new ops building for sure. So, okay, moving on to next, operations and maintenance. About 68% of our budget was spent. Again, vacancies contribute a lot to that. So we did have cost savings in that line item. And it looks like, yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, we had a bit in safety and supplies and stuff, but majority of it came out of the vacancies.
And
Vice
actually,
Chair?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
that's the line that I was looking at too, like safety supplies, there was quite a bit bigger number. I mean, we're still not talking about huge numbers, but quite a bit more budgeted. Is that because like we were budgeting for kind of like a COVID situation and we didn't need those things? And you might not have the answer to.
Yeah, again,
That
I wasn't part of the process in preparing final budget last year. So I don't have that answer for you. But maybe. I mean, I would assume that's what that went in, but we also got COVID funds too that we exhausted, so I don't know.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to Bureau of Elections, they spent about 60% of their budget. Vacancies as well on this one. Yeah, salaries and all the benefits, that's basically where the cost savings were for that one as well. Is there any questions? Okay, next one, moving on to HR, they spent about 70% of their budget. This one, they actually did expend most of their salaries. What it looks like is their insurance was budgeted higher. And their contract, yeah. So their contract and professional service as well, which we actually reduced for interim budget. Well, you'll see when you get to the final budget, we had reduced it, but then we had to re-increase it as an adjustment, but we'll discuss that further for final budget. But that's the main reason why that one's at only 70%. Okay, next one, moving on to MIS. We spent about 79% of their budget. Again, that's vacancies. You know, all the vacancies we have recently with IT, so that's.
And Madam Chair, if I can, do we know, and this might be a question for you too, Brent, is the contract services line on here, so the 29,000 line, is that CAMNet?
So this one is not, and again, this was done for final budget. This was budgeted for final budgets, so we didn't even have cabinet at that time. This would be a more final budget question.
Thanks.
Is there any other questions for IT?
Just how many employees will be in the information technology once it's fully staffed?
Well, again, for the final budget, I think we budgeted 3 positions. I think as it was prior, the director and then 2 techs, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to planning and zoning. They spent about 88% of their budget. And again, that one's, looks like vacancies and their medical, they're pretty much spot on. But everything else, they were pretty close to expending most of their budget, supplies and other things. Any questions for Pam? Okay, animal control, they spent about 98% of their budget. Again, the total is carried down. So if you'll see on the bottom column, that's the total of all the general fund. It kind of just flows all into the end. But animal control actually spent about 93% of their budget. In looking at it, they were actually over on their professional services. That has to do with their contract that they had with Stray Hearts. They actually exceeded that one by a little bit. I don't know where that's at for final. We did budget it in there. I know that's still under negotiations or whatever. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the ending cash balance. So as of June 30th, the general fund ending cash balance was $7,864,787.96, which matches the treasurer's report. So it's accurate.
Madam Chair, I'm confused why you would put this high amount in an animal control budget.
Because their contract initially was for 144,000.
No. I mean, the ending cash balances, I guess I don't understand why it's 799.
So that's the total for all the general funds. So what it does is all those are in the general fund. So what it does is it totals it at the bottom.
Okay.
So yeah, that's your final cash balance for your whole general fund.
It's a formatting, something that we can't control. It's a formatting
I see.
issue.
Right,
Yeah.
got it.
It is confusing.
Yeah, and a lot of these we actually pull directly from LGBMS. That's our reporting site for DFA. We try our best to kind of try to format them as best we can.
Yeah, and I can see it does say.
Even the text size, because I'm blind too. We're trying to. That's why we sent it to you guys. So your PDFs, you blow it up or whatever, because
It does say grand total general fund expenditures, so it's just, we have to be focused
So it all
on
totals on the bottom. Again, we try our best to make sure it's legible or viewable. But so then if the last page is actually a pie chart of all the general fund expenditures. So our expenditures total for the fourth quarter and last year was $11,735,347.68. Pie chart has it broken down by department, so you can see what percentage our general fund is that it did expend fourth quarter and the last year. Okay, so moving on to our special funds.
Just a quick question, where does the detention center fall under? Is it up? No, it's not operations, is it?
So that one falls directly under the general fund.
Directed?
Oh, so that one has its own, it has its own fund.
Am I missing it? I'm sorry if I missed it. Let me see if I can.
No. So it's not going to be part of the.
It's not part of the general fund is what you're saying. This is just general fund. Got it.
Yeah. So the detention has its own fund. It's the 226. So we'll get into that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so the next one is the correction fees, which basically washes itself out. We get that money transferred in, it's immediately transferred out. So these are just a fee, right? It just, we don't even see it. It's in and out.
Right.
Next one's a 203 property valuation fund. So at the end of June, they had expensed roughly about close to $90,000. Their ending cash balance on that fund was $1.5 million. So yeah, they had plenty of budget and that one left. They didn't expense really anything out of that budget. So next fund, the 204, which is the road.
I have a question
Yes, ma'am.
about this property valuation fund.
So that one's a percentage of the taxes that gets collected.
1% of all property taxes?
Yeah, there you go. So that's that fund.
I'm just curious, transportation costs are very low compared to what was budgeted. Transportation costs, am I reading this? If I'm reading the lines correctly, transportation costs 8,000, is that?
That was budgeted, so the actual amount that got used was the $2,800.
And then the travel for, I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, other
The
travel, they
40,000
didn't
is-
use any of that budget out of other travel.
And what is that for appraising properties? Is that for conferences?
If you want to, Maria could speak on this. This is her fund.
Okay.
Again, that's just budgeted, so if, yeah, Elsa says it's more for training.
So there wasn't any
But-
much training last year
Well,
because of COVID?
so they have a fund in the general fund as well, which is what, so in reviewing these, they mostly use that fund out of the general fund for their expenses and stuff. Their 1% is more like a fallback to me. They use this at the
But they
end of the
could
year.
use this.
They could use this, yes.
Which would free up more money.
They have options, yes,
Yes.
two different options.
So this past fiscal year and even this new fiscal year, IAAO classes are still online, so there's not travel. In past years, they would go down to Socorro for a week, so it would get a little bit more expensive. So for the last few years, because of COVID, it's been online. This year's gonna be online again.
I'm just curious, would I see what they spent on appraisals going out in the field? Would
Again,
that
that's
be seen
something
under
I can't speak
transportation
on.
costs?
That'd be more of a question for Maria. Like I
So it's
said,
not in
I
the
just see the
budget.
numbers. I don't know
How
in
they
detail
expend them,
how they
yeah.
spend it.
Okay.
How they decide to pull it from this one versus. the other.
Exactly. What we do is we basically put our directors and that in charge of their budgets.
Right.
They utilize what they have to spend, and basically we tell them how much and where it's coming from.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to Public Works, to the road fund. Their total expenditures were $1.5 million. They were budgeted 1.9, so they spent about 77% out of this fund. Their ending cash balance was $790,000, which that'll get carried over into this next year as their beginning cash balance. They do also have a state reserve that automatically has to get saved just in case something happens. It's like a 1/12 or what is it? I believe so.
I know that this isn't, Madam Chair, a question for Antonio, but I just noticed on the maintenance and repairs for grounds and roadways, we only used about half of what was budgeted. And maybe that was because of contract delays or supply delays and so on, but it just that.
Yeah, and again, for
Not
interim
much.
budget, we did cut that. But then after speaking with Jason, that was the issue. This next year, we anticipate
Yeah.
to expend that.
Because
that
my
budget.
reaction wouldn't necessarily be, we should cut it for the final.
Yeah,
for next
and
year.
again, I
My-
did cut it for interim budget, but then again, me and Jason
Yeah.
and Nelsa sat down. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
thank you, Jason.
So part of the reason for that is we had a lean winter, so our scoria was down for what we utilized to keep our roads salted and de-iced. That material was not utilized at its full capacity. So that was part of the savings.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, any other questions for them? Okay, moving on to the 206, which is the state EMS fund. They have a particular small budget as well. Expenditures were actually way less. They only used about 30% of their budget. Yeah, this one again was the travel. I'm assuming again, mostly everything is online. Another big one is the maintenance and supplies. So they really didn't utilize this line item too well, but again, they have other options. So I think this is another one that they can fall back on if they don't have that funds in the. You have any questions as far as that one? And again, these ending cash balances are the balances that we're going to start our beginning cash balances for final. So just keep that
Right.
in the back of your mind.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, what was the EMS grant from DOH of 62?
So that's a grant they receive every year from the state, I believe.
So remember that, because we have fire service that also provides EMS. So this gives money to the 13 volunteer fire districts to get medical supplies as they render aid as first responders.
Okay.
And we do take a little portion of this for the ambulance, but it also covers the first responders and the volunteer side.
Any other questions on this? Okay, so moving on to the 207, which is our E911 fund. They utilize about 73% of their budget, and well, the obvious reason is their vacancies. I mean, we all know how short-staffed they are. So again, they brought in, looks like they brought in more money on their GRTs this year as well. So that's why their cash balance is going to be $2.5 million this year. So again, that reserve fund they have is just growing and growing. So that's going to be our beginning cash balance. Yeah, because like I said, their vacancy savings is crazy right now. Is there any questions for the E911 fund?
So what, Madam Chair, if I may, what I hear you saying is the gross receipts tax that was imposed, we're seeing an increase of 522,673, which reflects a 99% increase from when? Oh, the actual,
Right, so-
just the actual change. So we that's just an indication that GRTs are up.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because we budgeted, well, they budgeted, not me, but whoever budgeted final budget last year budgeted them at 1.2 million, where we brought in 1.7, almost 1.8. So yes, GRTs are up, so that's a reflection of that.
Interesting.
Okay, 208 Farm and Range Fund. So this one, yeah, there were no expenditures, so that 100% is actually inaccurate. It should be zero, because essentially this budget didn't get utilized. So whatever money that was generated, all the revenue, and that's going to be our beginning cash balance for next year. I'm really not sure what this fund's
I was
used
just going to
for.
ask, can you?
So,
We've used it in the past for the Ag Center.
okay.
We bought those sheets a couple of years ago.
Is that where it came from?
The three
Is that
outgoing
what it-
commissioners remember us buying that purchase, and so we get a little bit of money from the state for this tailored grazing rights, but we generally use it at the Ag Center.
Okay.
Okay, but it's not showing we expended any of that money, or did we?
No, we didn't
expended
spend any of that at all last year. So that money will just carry over into.
Usually the individuals that work together with the NMSU Agricultural Extension Center, I don't know if anybody's there in charge now, like the previous person. They were the ones that were purchasing stuff through that fund and working together with purchasing on it. But since there's been nobody in that position lately, I think that's why no expenditures have happened, because I haven't heard from anyone on that side of the world, whether they need stuff to help with, eradication of pests and so forth there.
Yeah.
We utilize that for that, and of course for any other items that the Ag Center needs, like the chutes, for instance, or a chute that we actually bought previously several years ago to help with the cattle and stuff that do go through there, or the horses, when they do have to check them, medically and stuff to make sure they're okay before they go on out. So those kind of things.
Thank you for
That's probably why it's not expended at this point.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, I researched this federal tailored grazing. It can be used for culverts, roads. It's normally in the past been used to kill animals, pesticides or poisons. for.
Well, I know that actually the county has been going a different direction. We've actually contracted a company that doesn't kill them.
Yeah, right.
What
So
they
that's,
do is they relocate them.
and we could use this fund for that service. And I think I expressed concern about using poisons to kill.
I know that the
Wildlife.
last ones we contracted would relocate them. They didn't.
Yeah, just
they
so
didn't
you're
eradicate
aware.
them.
Okay, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
All right. Ready? Okay, so moving on to the 209 protection fund. This is Mikey's fund. So they expend about 25% of their budget. The main reason why is because they use this fund mainly to purchase like buildings, fire trucks, stuff to that effect. That's why their cash balance is so big and it keeps growing, is because a lot of the fire districts try to save from year to year, just because their equipment's so expensive. They can't initially just, purchase these things. So they build up their money in some of these funds in order to purchase that or make renovations to their buildings and to that effect. So their ending cash balance is going to be $3.9 million. And again, it looks like, because there's buildings and structures and other things that it looks like they're saving up for those types of things.
And Madam Chair, this is for all our fire districts. This reflects
Correct.
this amount, yeah.
Yes.
So they have this broken down internally between the 13 volunteer fire districts. So
Okay.
it's broken down. Everybody has their own allotment. This is just generalized.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm actually the person in charge of their budget, so I know I have it broken down in all different spreadsheets if you guys want to go take a look.
It looks like a lot, but it's not.
Yeah, no, not between 13 fire districts.
Right.
It's not even,
That we purchased on our donation of property came from Prestia. Whatever they have in their bank account will be used as part of that building. I know, I don't want to get into too much in the weeds, but we're already talking about that construction.
Okay.
And Madam Chair,
Yes.
all the carryovers have to be approved as part of the application here by the state. So they're the ones that have to say so if they can carry it over.
yeah. So they have their own board and everything as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so the 211, the law enforcement fund, the LEPF fund. So this is is it like a grant? It's a grant or something that comes down from the state every year. It's $45,000. That this
For equipment, bullets, bulletproof vested uniforms, because they get a uniform allotment that comes out of this fund as well. So you can buy vehicles, but we've generally used it for equipment and the uniforms. So finance has cut the deputies a check for uniforms. Is that here?
Yeah, and as you can see, we've fully used it because whatever we don't use gets reverted back. So right now it's at 48 cents. So we did a pretty good job of almost to the
Good
penny.
budgeting?
Yeah, on that one. Okay, the 214, which is the lodger's tax fund. For this one, we only spent about 26% of this budget. So our ending cash balance that will carry over is the 1.6. A lot of this is for that grants to subrecipients fund. That whole thing when it transferred over to finance and that whole thing, there was not necessarily somebody to approve the grants and all this stuff. So that's why this fund is as big as it is because we didn't
We need to
disperse any of those grants.
Now, Taos Air comes out of here.
Right, and that's the big one that came out of here. That's like 2 million.
Yeah.
And okay, that's the one that came out. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, so
And
you'll see
so-
on final, we actually did increase it to whatever we,
I did see that on final, Madam Chair, but
Did you-
question for here, is that 200,000 to Taos Air reflected in this fourth quarter, or
Yes, so it should be under your contract and other services.
Look at the 231,000 number.
okay?
Yeah, so
is
there's
there-
that one, and then there's another one that flows into that one as well.
So that's considered a contract and not a grant to subrecipients?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, well, because basically it's an MOU, so it's an agreement.
Thank you.
Yes.
Madam Chair, this is both promotional and non-promotional.
Correct. Yeah, it is. Yes, they both flow into this 214 fund. So
Okay.
they're both, it's promotional and non-promotional.
So,
And that's the tricky thing with LGBMS is that you could have 10 or 15 different line items flow into one line item, because that's how we have to report it on the state side. So that's why when we make adjustments, it looks like one adjustment, but in turn it's actually like 10. Just for that reason. And that's being that the reason why the state chose to do it that way is because every county, every municipality has their own line items and how they report. So they wanted something that's more centralized so they can, project, information and stuff. But that's what the state wanted, is they wanted just one reporting system.
Madam Chair, the increase, is this reflective of the increase we're getting from lodger's tax, the increase of 629?
Yes.
So we're again.
So the county did see an increase in the lodger's tax by that amount for the last fiscal year.
Then we didn't expend as much, so it's a
Okay.
combination.
Yeah, and again, finance, we still have to meet with the clerk's office to see how that whole process works and all that, and create our own basically policy and procedures, because we weren't given that as well. So.
Right, because we're already receiving.
Yes.
requests,
So.
And may I ask, the temporary positions, this will be rolled into the finance? You'll have a separate
No,
position
so-
for lodger's tax?
So right now,
78?
we actually have our accountant one. When that position was applied for, we changed the job description to where we will have somebody designated for lodger's tax. They have secondary duties as far as payroll and other things that we need in our finance department. But his overall function will be lodger's tax.
And
So
that's
it will get
reflected
paid
in
out
the
of
78,000 right here?
No, actually, that's a good point that Antonio brought up. We need to double check that, because I wouldn't mind doing that.
Yeah, if it could, help our budget as well.
So in the past, and this is actually something me and Jason talked about, we did not talk to Antonio about this, actually me and Jason talked about this yesterday. In the past, that 78,000 represented the employees that would go work at Filimon Sanchez Park and do the park improvements. So that so this would come out of the non-promotional side of it. And since we have those vacancies, we haven't filled it. So part of mine and Jason's conversation already yesterday afternoon is, could we use this on the Ag Center when we do stuff over there, or we contract somebody out? And then, like I said, we haven't talked to them about it. I kind of like the idea of using that accounting position as part of this as well. That makes sense to me.
Thank you for thinking about that. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Drew.
Are there any other questions regarding lodger's tax? Okay, so the next one is the 217, the recreation fund. Utilized about 28% of their budget. I think again, this one's also for the Filimon Sanchez, correct? Again, we didn't really utilize this fund last year because, again, I think there is a position as well budgeted in here for maintenance and stuff. So that ending cash balance, that 24, almost 25,000, will get it'll roll over into this next final budget. 218 under intergovernmental grants fund. So this one, we utilized about 98% of this budget. Ending cash balance is $1.4 million. And again, this fund fluctuates because what we do is, well, we pay the money up front for our grants, and then in turn we get reimbursements. So this fund's very fluent, so it moves throughout the year. So that ending cash balance will be, so it'll roll over into our next fiscal year's budget.
I do have a question. The disaster relief that we declared a disaster, I'm guessing this was the snow squall, and that happened last year, so you're showing only 774.
Actually, no, that one was more COVID related. The squall was actually a whole separate fund and line item.
Okay, we'll see that later.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this one's just grants. That one was more, I think, for masks or something, where that one came in.
Right, okay.
Yeah, no, the squall one, it's a completely separate fund.
Okay.
It's out of an emergency fund.
Okay.
Any other questions? Grants? Okay, the 219 Senior Citizen Fund utilized about 67% of their budget. This one is some vacancies as well. Mostly they're temp positions. That's where most of their savings occurred. And their supplies, they could have definitely utilized it more, but their carryover cash balance is going to be $900,016 and $813.75. So that'll get carried over for the next budget. Any questions on senior? The 220, the healthcare assistant fund. So this is the indigent fund. They utilized about 58% of their budget. Vacancies was a huge one, as well as their indigent claims was actually way under. Again, I don't know I don't have the background information as to why, but they're carrying over $1.8 million. Majority of that is because of that line item. So again, that's a question for Zach.
Zach was, Madam Chair, he was on the call.
But a lot of it too is we're saving money when we're gonna issue out that RFP, so it's built into the RFP for detoxes. Some of that money's gonna get absorbed here.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, these are fourth quarter numbers too, so again, we'll reflect it better on final budget.
Again, is the gross receipts tax? Remember there was talk something was going to go away out of indigent, but I see again gross receipts have increased substantially in this fund. So will we see a decrease in this fund? Remember there was talk it was going to be cut on some state level. Is that not happening, or will we always get? Are we always going to get the gross receipts tax for county indigent?
Right now, it still remains as is, but yes, there was talk about changing that formula up again. So the tax comes in and a good percentage of that goes back out to the state of New Mexico on a quarterly basis. And that's reflected in here. And then that money is used by the state for a 3-to-1 match. And that money then flows from the state to Holy Cross as an example for those that meet the indigent threshold for their bills to be paid for.
Okay, I just don't see an intercept here.
It's not an intercept. We have to cut our check and mail it out to them.
But we still have this remaining balance minus the check we have to cut them. Or we cut them last year.
Yeah, so again, these are all numbers that reported to the end of this last fiscal year. I don't know of any checks that carried over, and I didn't see any. So whatever got expensed up to that point it's pretty much accurate all the way to the penny, because again, unless it was a carryover that we didn't catch for this last fiscal year, everything's been expensed. So there wouldn't be an
And I would assume that
outstanding
if
cut
someone's
check.
expecting something, they would have already notified us.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh yeah, especially if they're big amounts, like well, we're getting like 5-10 phone calls a day. So, any other questions? The 221, the county hospital fund. So they spent about 2% of this budget. So I'm not sure how this, I think this tax goes in and comes directly out. Being that we budgeted $2.5 million and they only expensed 51,000. Their ending cash balance carryover is 904,000.
So do they invoice, or how do they get their monies? How do they request their money?
That's a question for Paula. I think it just the same thing. I think we get it and then it just goes back out.
So all we do is that.
Yeah, we don't actually see it. It just, we're more like a funnel. It
But
just,
do they have to request it though, right?
no, they don't. We'd automatically.
It's just the gross receipts.
Okay, so we just.
You're thinking about what we used to do with the mill levy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one we don't even see it. Just, yeah, but we still have to report it and track it.
But yet only 2% was expended.
Yeah.
So.
But again, that explains the reason why. If we don't see it and we don't do the expenses here, that's why our system wouldn't. Yeah.
So we don't actually know how it was expended.
Right.
No,
I
that would be
understand.
a question for the hospital.
Yeah, which is the big question. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So. Okay, the 222 fund, which is the fire exercise tax fund.
Mm-hmm.
This one, too, they did see an increase in their GRTs of 400,000. They expensed about 3% of this budget. Again, this is another budget that they use to save for equipment, for buildings, stuff of that nature. So their ending cash balance was $1.7 million. Again, this is spread out through all the 13 fire districts as well.
And the land acquisition of 60,000 is for?
Yes, that one was for the, I think it was Costilla, right? Because I think they budgeted that amount and then they paid.
We ended up getting that donated. It was something
that we budgeted.
Yeah. For, and then we'd probably still pay. I know they're getting the quotes for the title and all that stuff. We had to pay some miscellaneous things to the title insurance company.
For Sarah or for what?
No, this is Costilla.
For Costilla, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, the 223, the DWI fund. A lot of this too is we receive funds from the state, from federal. They expensed about 85% of this budget, and this one is to vacancies as well. They're short a couple positions. Their carryover amount was $300,631. Yeah, so they're pretty good because they do track it. They have it broken down with all the different funds and the spreadsheet and all that shows, because we have to report a lot of this to DFA and the state as well. So that amount gets carried over. You have any questions on DWI fund? The 225 clerks recording filing fee. Again, this is a fee that's collected, was it 1% as well? For all their admin fees, all the processing that they do downstairs. Their carryover is $272,900. It does look like they also had an increase in recording fees as well. So overall, we are receiving more collections and fees and stuff like that, and all the different funds. 226, here's that detention fund. So we do have an ending cash balance of 967,831. This as well as vacancy savings. They're short-staffed as well. Their gross receipts tax was up last fiscal year as well, almost 500,000. So that's good. Hopefully that continues. Any questions on that fund? No. The 232, which is the County Education GRT Fund. This one again, their gross receipts tax was up as well. They expensed about 40% of their budget. Their ending cash balance actually grew. So we're going to be starting off that fund with $2.2 million. And it looks like yeah, it's because of our revenue. We received a huge, right? It was a huge from one of the loans or something that came in now towards the end of the year. That's why we had to actually do a miscellaneous adjustment to increase that revenue because it came in literally like last week. Yeah. So that cash balance there will carry over into the next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. And Madam Chair and Antonio, I know this question isn't for you, but Brent, maybe you can help. Are the schools aware that this is available? Like, when was the last time we communicated to them about the fact that these funds are there and have to be drawn down by a certain time frame, which I believe is February?
It's communicated with them in the month of June. They're actually already have access to the new monies.
Okay.
Paula gave Antonio the information that's in the budget,
Okay.
the new budget for the new monies, and they have so February this year.
So
Great, thank you.
So let me just clarify something real quick. So they have until the end of August to spend that one the current one. The next one, we don't even have to track. The loan company, they go directly through them. So it's no longer they submit any paperwork to us, any of that type stuff. The bank handles all that. So what they do is they go directly to the bank now.
So right now, for the 2018 Ed GRTs, those will expire August 30th.
Right.
Most of the schools have been contacting me since Ms. Martinez left. So I do have a few that, they still don't give me the correct paperwork in order to justify the reimbursement. So I'm working with a lot of them one-on-one on that. But right now, majority of them have expended almost all of it.
Yeah, they pretty much
There's a
used
few
it all.
that
There's a couple
haven't,
that-
but a majority are even now expanding on computers now before school starts up, because it does take time to get that equipment in. I'm trying to get it in as soon as August 15th so I can review and get them in on time before the deadline, so the schools receive their GRT on time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the information.
Yeah, and our hope is that they do spend all that money by the deadline. So, but they are informed because Paula's informed them, and they're in the loop, so they know. The 241 Convention Center Fund. So this fund was created for the community centers, and it looks like we have an ending cash balance of $5,000.
Okay.
Jason,
Yeah,
can you bump that up just so we can see what was the, thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this does not include rental from the Ag Center.
Yes, we haven't had any rentals from the Ag Center.
Okay,
So this would go here going forward, as well as the other community centers.
and then somewhere else it will be line item, which community center brought in what proceeds.
Right.
So if a community center, for example, like Talpa's leaking right now, the roof, so obviously this is different from, where would we pull that from?
We'd probably pull that from the 103 fund.
Okay.
Yeah, so we never even saw true revenue from the rental fees, only but that $715. So we actually budgeted $15,000, but we didn't see that. We only saw the $715. because the beginning cash balance was actually the $4,787.
Could it be because of the reporting process? Is that?
It's probably the 715 probably represents the one payment from Inspire Taos from last year for Royo Seco. So that's probably a monthly payment. And then that ended last year at some point in the fall, and we got one more payment. And maybe even that beginning, that carryover balance of 4,000 is probably some payments in there from Inspire Taos.
Right,
Got
from
it.
last year.
Yeah, prior fiscal year.
Yeah.
So I'm still confused. Is this center fee fund to be used for repairs to the community centers?
When we build up the fund,
Yeah, currently you only have about $5,000 in there. That'll roll over into the final budget.
because the conversations that we've had is that if the rent and Royo Seco, that money will go into this fund, and we'll track it separately like they're already doing for the volunteer fire districts. And then if we need to buy chairs as an example, then there's a dedicated fund to go buy chairs or for the community center. I'm just using that crazy
Right,
example.
but not all community centers, fees they collect. They
Yeah,
do not-
that's the issue.
Not at this point.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. There is a bigger
That's for the
issue.
whole, that's a whole other long
Yeah.
conversation.
Right.
I just wanted to make it clear that not all of them, yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
So,
Without creating
so
a
the
problem.
15,000's not correct.
That's just a
and
budgeted
your
amount.
expenditures is not correct.
It's not an accurate number. It's not reflective of
It's
what's
not
happening.
reflected.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the Forest Service Reserve Fund. So our ending cash balance on this one is $35,933. This one was because they didn't utilize their maintenance and repair line item, but Elsa is telling me this is for the WUI coordinator.
Oh.
That's why this fund's set up, correct? Is there any questions on them?
Is this where we pay JR
Yeah.
Yeah, currently, yes.
In the past.
in the
Now we're
past?
paying Garrett.
What was that, Elsa?
Now we're paying Garrett and so.
So where are we paying JR from?
No.
No.
No, it's like, so where are we paying JR from?
We still need to set up that funded budget.
Yeah, there's a process for that, yeah. So moving on to the 26,000, the American Rescue Plan, Relief Plan. So we expended about 29% of this budget. We currently have $2.2 million that will roll over into this final budget. Again, we didn't expense much out of this fund. Majority of it was the squall stuff. They used some of this money to cover that. It was like 500,000, I think, but not all of it got expensed. But
I'm confused.
so if you look,
We're paying someone we have full-time positions?
yes. So last fiscal year, Patty Sunday was getting paid out of this fund.
Get transferred over to the general fund.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes. So that's what was the expenses for those line
Okay.
items. Yes.
All right, thank
So that'll change for final because Brent's correct. We actually moved it to the manager's fund instead of out of this one.
Okay, thank you.
So there shouldn't be anybody coming out of this fund as far as salaries and that type of stuff.
And Madam Chair, just a friendly reminder for us, the board and management, and I know you've heard me say this before, is that we need to spend this first half down so that we can get the second half in sooner rather than December, sooner rather than that.
But that's your current balance right there, so if you need a number.
Thank you. Not for you guys at all, but just to.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there is a plan, but yes, good point.
Yeah, that's where you're at right there, is that ending cash balance will be your beginning cash balance. So.
We're getting closer.
So the 299 fund, so this fund actually, the way it's broken down into LGBMS actually combines the treasurer's fees along with the sheriff's collection fees. In this one, I kind of left them both together, being that this is the way we report to LGBMS. In final budget, it's different because Elsa broke it down and separated them.
Okay.
So we expensed about 28% of this budget. Ending cash balance is $217,113, 34 cents. Majority of that does go to the treasurers. They collected more fees, and so they have a bigger cash balance. Like I said, in final budget, we have it broken down between the treasurer and the sheriff, so you can accurately see it on that end. This way is the way that LGBMS, it all gets reported into that one line item. But again, most of the cash balance does belong to the treasurer. Any questions on that? Okay, the 302, the Community Development Block Grant. This one, we have an ending cash balance of $255,000. This is majority of this for the historic courthouse. This is for like their, the architecture and stuff like that. So this one, they didn't use anything. So basically the transfer down carried down, and the beginning cash balance also carried down.
So the funding we just received from Congresswoman Teresa Ledger Fernandez, where does that get dropped into here? It goes into.
Keep that separate, just because of CDBG, because the dollar amount, it's a single audit.
Because that dollar amount, yeah.
When it comes through the state, it's still considered federal money, so, well, it's cleaner for CDBG to keep those separate.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. So the 303 fund, this one, we actually had to make a correction to this one, being for the fact, because it has a zero cash balance, but what happened is that when it was reported last fiscal year, it shouldn't have been put into this fund. It should have been in the 218 fund, so we had to make that adjustment for this budget. That's why you see that miscellaneous other for that adjustment. But even the transfers out and all that were part of that other line item that we had to move.
So this particular appropriation should have been put under intergovernmental grants, which is the 21800. And for some reason we tripped on this and noticed it was a duplicate under the 303. So in order to offset it, in order to balance as well, because we had to check with the treasurer as well to make sure, the revenue and us balance in, we found out this was actually like a duplicate budget that was done last year. So in order to balance out this year, we have to do this adjustment in order to zero it out, because it's already being, it's already being documented through the 218 already with the same amount. So it was just a duplicate budget, that's all.
Okay.
So that's why there's no ending cash balance?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we zeroed it out because we
Okay.
wanted to make sure that going forward into next year, it's
we don't
reported accurately.
repeat the error.
Right. 399 fund, which is our capital projects fund. Utilize about 43% of this budget. Majority of this one is for the veteran cemetery and other projects we have going on throughout the county. Our ending cash balance is $6,633,532.32. So that'll be our beginning cash balance for the new budget. But again, this is all the veteran cemetery and all those other projects that we have to budget and make sure we have money for. Okay, the 402, revenue bond debt service. Again, there was a correction also we needed to make on this one. We needed to increase it by $205,000. Again, it was an error between our system and LGBMS. We had to make that correction to make the cash balance accurate. So our ending cash balance is $5,216,851. So that'll get carried over. And again, this is our revenue bond service. So this is all the other reported stuff, from the treasurers. 403 is another revenue bond service fund. This ending cash balance is 6,343,673.48. Again, we had to make an adjustment to this one too for another loan or whatever that came in at the end of the year. So that's what that $5 million adjustment is. Again, this will carry over. This is basically the debt service from the purchase of the land and all the stuff next door and some other things that came in. 502, the solid waste fund. My sheet will turn. This one, we have an ending cash balance of $1.1 million. They used about 73% of their budget. Again, this one's for the vacancies as well. We all know how short Edward's been, and so that's the reason why we didn't utilize most of this budget. Any questions on that?
So, Madam Chair. So the enterprise fund under solid waste, we brought in 780,000. Is that correct? Does that include the yearly dumping fees we charge our residents? That includes the $120 plus
Yeah, so
bin rentals.
yes, so a big chunk of it is from the collections that Melissa does in the front for trash and other those type fees. Yeah, if you go talk to Melissa, yeah, she's been extremely busy. She's brought in close to $1 million every year for the past 3 years. Yeah, she's been really slammed. We're lucky we have one employee with her, but in most cases she's been by herself. So yes, that's where that revenue comes from.
So if I may, Madam Chair, this money, this revenue can be used for equipment if they want to buy equipment.
Yes, we were gonna buy a truck last year. Was in the budget. After much discussion between Jason, Elsa, Jonathan at the time, they decided not to buy a truck because we didn't have the driver. So so it's why 165 did not come out, because we didn't buy that truck after all.
Well,
And some of that money got used through waste management through that contract.
For that contract,
In
yes.
order to pick up the trash and get those transfer sites up to speed. I know we're still dealing with that. That's a really hefty expense, and I'm hearing now that they're hoping to get a few more employees on. I hope so, because waste management is not cheap.
Yeah, they're
It is very expensive.
So the savings in there actually helped us in
Right.
covering that contract.
Right.
And
Yeah, another issue too with the truck is they kept increasing the price on us. So it started, when you guys approved it, it started off at one amount. I think they came back and it increased. Well, then it increased again. So like we were like, at this point.
That was the whole reason why we just said no also to the truck after speaking with Edward, Jonathan, and Jason about it. The reasoning why is because of the cost of metal and everything to build vehicles. Peterbilt, the general company, not even the vendor here, the agency or the agent, wasn't increasing. It was coming straight from the actual manufacturer, where almost every month it was increasing by 5 to 7%, and they couldn't guarantee it for more than 1 week.
Oh, wow.
So it just got to a point where it got
Yeah.
ridiculous, to a point where are we going to end up paying $300,000 for a trash truck when it went from 164?
And we would argue the fact that, well, they gave us a quote, couldn't they honor it for the 30 days even, and they still couldn't, so.
The price increases due to COVID, so it was a
Yeah.
little bit of a gouging.
Not a good time to
where
buy
we just-
unless we have
We
to.
cut them off, yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, yeah, so.
Yeah.
so then that price would also include what we got brought in from recyclables.
But if you look at the other charges on the revenue side, that's where that would be. We don't commingle the revenue that Melissa collects.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so it'd be other cells.
Sells other,
Yeah.
And
So
the
whatever
issue of not-
Edward collects, he brings it to us and then we deposit it.
so the issue of non-collectibles, were years ago, over $1 million non-collectibles in our solid waste fees. Do you reflect that anywhere in this? Are you under law to do that? Because we can't send it to collection agencies. People just don't pay. How is that?
If I'm understanding you correctly, what we do is if they don't pay, we file a lien on their property, is I think what the process is.
I know, but is it reflected the amount that people haven't paid anywhere here?
No.
It's reflected in our auditor's financial report, so they have to account for it.
Okay,
So it's in the audit.
okay.
Yeah.
And I haven't had the chance, but I was gonna ask Antonio and to get with Melissa to give us the current collection rates.
And Madam Chair and Brent, slightly related to that, sometime when you guys have, free couple of hours, sorry, after this lovely budget season, I would be really interested in knowing, a few years ago, we switched from annual billing to quarterly billing, right?
Right.
So that's a pretty significant change in methodology. And I would at some point be really interested in knowing what was the impact of that on collection rates.
And again, the only one that has that information is Melissa.
Exactly. So at some point,
She's
it
a
would be.
very valuable piece of the county. So.
No, I hear
Yeah.
you. So I'm not sure.
She has all that in, yeah.
Because we changed something pretty significantly, and we should know what the impact is.
Agreed.
Right?
And you should be able to compare data from one to the
Yeah.
other. I agree.
That's really key for us here, is to compare and to.
Yeah, no, I'm a numbers guy myself. I get it. I'd rather show me the numbers, show me the difference and change and stuff.
Tells a story.
then we
And
go from
I
there.
certainly didn't expect you all to know that today or even be responsible for it. I just want to put it out there that I think that is something that we should understand.
Yeah, agreed. Any other questions on the solid waste? Moving on to the 505, the EMS ambulance fund. They spent about 82% of their budget. So their ending cash balance is 426,800. His again looks like vacancies as well. I know that they use a lot of temps and stuff, and they leave, they come, and it's a hard profession, so that's probably why they have their savings. Any questions on that one? Okay, the 703, the gross receipts tax held for others. There is no cash balance because I think this is kind of like the hospital fund, right? Where we don't see it. It just comes and goes, but we still need to track it. So.
I'm just wondering why you don't have anything for county regional transit. You don't know what we took in?
Right now, that's a direct intercept.
Okay.
So remember when they changed the law like 2 years ago, they changed that formula. And I know Ms. Esteban doesn't like that because now we can't even see it. So it's a direct intercept that goes directly to them. Like, they were able to lobby and to let Commissioner Fabra get to this meeting because he would probably know the background on it. So they lobbied the state to get the money directly. And then the voters voted for that.
Got it. And we can only guess it's high because we're seeing higher gross receipts tax.
Probably. So then your final pages are your LGBMS breakdown. This is the sheet they see. This is when we upload and make our adjustments and everything. This is the reporting recap sheet. So on here you can see what our ending cash balance is, what reserves we had left at the end of the year, your investments and everything. But what's important to focus on is our ending cash balances, because those are what's going to carry into our final budget as our beginning cash balances. You will see a discrepancy of like $16, but that's a rounding issue that they kept fixing LGBMS. If you put even 7 cents, they rounded $1. So you'll see that in final. But the sheet that got attached to actual resolution is my recap and breakdown sheet, and it shows that we match to the treasurer's report. Thanks again for Paula, because without Paula, we wouldn't balance. Like, we called her in at the last minute, but.
The hospital gross receipts tax, I understand. We're no longer imposing a mill levy, right? Did that sunset?
No,
We are.
the old mill levy sunsetted, and there's either 963 or 903, because I just gave Mr. Ram that number this morning. Left of the old mill levy money, there's some payments that need to be processed off of that I'll be giving to Antonio this week or for next week's run. And then there's the new mill levy money that started this year.
Okay, I just can't remember, the voters approved another mill levy
An increase,
on
right?
top of the GRTs we're giving them?
Yes.
Okay, and so how much is the old mill levy? Did you say $900 or 900,000?
There's $900,000 left, I'll tell you in a second.
So where would that be reflected here? In this
So that would
report?
probably be in your 402 or your 403 under the debt service. I'm not sure how it gets funneled into the county.
904,000.
That would be a
I'm sorry.
question for Paula.
904,000.
From the mill levy, and then we'll bring in additional. So I'm just wondering, yeah, where is that reflected in this report?
Or is it in the hospital fund? Wasn't that the amount was the 900?
It would be simply mill levy, not GRT.
Yeah, no, it's probably gonna, like I said, that's a question for Paula to know where that gets pulled in.
But you'd have it here in this budget.
Oh yeah, so if you look at the county hospital page, it's reflected on your restricted cash on the top.
Under restricted cash.
Yes, so
Okay.
that has that 904,000.
Okay, great, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
So this is going to be what's going to be submitted to the state, is that
Correct.
Okay.
This was the upload that's already in there, that we pull out.
This back page.
Okay, but not
Yeah.
the entire.
No,
okay,
well, no,
good.
oh, no. and
Because they
that-
don't
and-
want to see that. They
No,
just want their
and on
format.
that system, like I said, there's so many light items that funnel into the different,
Okay.
yeah, and then it gives its own tally. And
Got
so-
it, thank you.
Yeah.
And this is a statutory requirement for us to do this presentation.
Yeah, and just so you all know, the reason why I was asking is because of the formula that was thrown off on that third column. I wanted to make sure that if it was going to get sent off, that we would send it off.
Yeah, no, they don't even
So-
see that
so they don't
sheet,
even
so-
see that.
No,
Okay.
only, that's for you guys.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'd make sure that.
Thank you.
That's all I can-
So, Madam Chair, there was discussion, there might be some modification in the report, but not necessarily this one. I just want to make sure you aren't going to be changing any numbers of what you have.
Nothing's gonna change. What you see is what's gonna get reported.
Okay,
If you guys approve it, all what you saw is what we're approving.
okay.
There will be no more adjustments, none of that.
Okay.
Yeah, we got all that covered, so.
Great, okay. Any other questions, commissioners? And I think Commissioner Fambro is off. He's not online anymore. And so any questions? Seeing none, what are the wishes of the commission?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the fourth quarter financial report 2022-2023 fiscal year as presented by our interim finance directors.
Madam Chair, I will second.
Okay, we have a motion from Vice Chair to approve as stated, and a second by Commissioner O'Donnell. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Fambro? Commissioner Gallegos? Chair Weaver?
Yes.
There it is. Yes, as well.
Vice Chair Brush?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank
for
you
your
guys.
hard work.
Appreciate it.
Yes, and you're still not done. So let's go on to 7B, approval of resolution number 2022-42. I am on the right one, right?
Here's another statutory
Oh,
requirement.
sorry.
Okay.
By resolution.
Oh, there, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a separate, separate
Okay,
part,
so
but,
approval of resolution.
so basically what you have in front of you is the resolution and the recap sheet, that we at finance did to make sure that what we're reporting was exactly what Paula had on her treasurer's report. So if you see, at the bottom, you'll see that we balanced to the penny. And again, we brought in Paula yesterday to help us get there. So again, thank you to Paula and for all her knowledge and stuff, so.
But that is item B, correct? Okay, okay.
The statutes require it.
Right, certainly. I just hadn't read it, so I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
it's something that actually gets submitted as part of the presentation I had. That gets uploaded as well
Right,
to
certainly.
DFA.
But it is a separate item, and
Yeah,
so we do.
yeah, I
need
didn't
to-
know it was even a separate item, so I apologize. I thought it was all.
Okay.
Madam
So-
Chair, I move to approve resolution number 2022-42, certifying the final quarter report has been reviewed and improved to assure accuracy of the beginning cash balances used on our FY 2022 or 2023 budget.
Yeah,
Is there a
I have to
second?
have the approved one.
Madam Chair, I will second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve as stated by Vice Chair and a second by Commissioner O'Donnell. And any discussion?
Should this actually on the agenda read FY 2023?
No, because this is the fourth quarter.
We're in the fourth quarter.
So we're
2022.
closing out last fiscal year.
You're doing the same thing I did when we're on the fourth.
Yeah,
quarter.
yeah,
I'm
see,
the same-
that's what's hard because you run them side by side, so.
Beginning cash balances used for, I figured that it was what we used for the next year.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Right, but it is correct, 2022.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a motion and a second, and discussion, seeing none, call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Gagos,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Chair Vihel.
Yes. Okay, do you want a break before we go to the next?
She's gonna present this one, so I can't.
Okay, so since you don't want to break, let's go on to 7C, a public hearing. Review and approval of 2022-2023 fiscal year final budget. And Ms. Elsa, you're taking this one. And
Taking the
so,
lead on the big books,
and
sorry.
I believe, okay, go ahead, and then we'll open it up for the.
We'll open up. If you need a break, we can take a break. It's not a big deal. Do you think we need a break?
Yeah, I know. So I'm going to open it up for a public, it's a public hearing. So for the record, I was actually, oh, so it's not that? Oh, thank you.
Opportunity to comment on the thing, but it doesn't run like a planning part of public.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. Then with that being said, it's all
So
yours.
everybody's good?
We're good.
Okay, so we'll move on to the first slide, which is a little bit of a budget summary in regards to kind of what got put in here, is the 2022 certified property tax valuation. And that was provided by the county assessor's office. If there's any questions regarding that, you have Ms. Maria Dimas here to answer any of your questions, or Christina. Also too on there is the general fund revenue and expenditures. They're projected, these are just projected rates between 7.7% and 13.9%. Of course, it's projected. We do foresee it, but we'll see when the year comes around. Also for the medical insurance, there is a slight increase in the calendar year starting January of 2023. The full medical insurance increase, the possible increase altogether was supposed to be like 19%. I know about, what was it, 9 or 10% happened this January. It's not to exceed the 9.9%, but it might be lower. We won't know till we get closer to the calendar year end from HR what the insurance is going to actually do, but it cannot exceed the 9.5% medical increase for insurance. And then everything included here has actuals as of the June 30th, 2022 final report provided by the Treasurer's Office. So we're going to go first into the first slide, which is
Excuse me, Elsa, can I pause you right there?
Sure.
Just so going back to that final budget summary, which I truly appreciate. I noticed that we didn't note that there was an increase in salaries. Is there a particular reason, or just it didn't get noted? Salary increases?
So the salary increases are happening, but we're gonna do it after final gets approved. We got the spreadsheet kind of late. Well, no, the first part, the longevity and the 7.92% was included with interim, which is what we went with on the final. But if there is any other further increases down the road, let's say with the PRA and that'll be adjusted after final budget's approved, so we can move forward. Of course, this is like a living, breathing document. It does change throughout every month. So that's something that we had to consider, but it's so many entries to just adjust it at the last minute, even to put that in. We weren't going to make the time.
But it's
here.
reflected in there.
Yes,
It
all
is
those
reflected.
changes are
Okay.
reflected here
It's
on the
reflected in
salary.
there, just not part of this.
It's the
Yeah, that's right.
7.92
Just
and
wanna make sure
and
it's
the
reflected.
longevity that was given out, yes.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure it was reflected in,
Yes,
because it
it
wasn't
is.
noted. Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
So
And then another question on the
Mhm.
general fund revenue and expenditures, and I guess as we go through, we'll identify, because this is a 7.7% increase, 7.7% up to 13, we'll figure that out, or you'll highlight those for us where those.
Sure, as
Thank
we
you.
go along through the slides, yes.
Thank you.
So under the DFA fund number 11000 is the general fund revenues and expenditures. So we're going to go through the revenues. There's a pie chart with the different percentages on there. I apologize, I thought the small county assistance percentage came out. That's actually 1%. I just noticed it now when I was looking at the book. It didn't appear, the box didn't open up enough. The general fund revenue rounded out to $60,746,347. And as you can see, it's been projected about 83% is property tax, 2% is other. I don't know why that, oh, that's that little slice there. Fees collected is 5%, small county assistance is 1%, and the GRTs are 9% that go into the revenue. If you look at the detailed revenue and expenditures, you will see the final year budget on their unrestricted cash. It comes out to $7,864,788, and then the investments also add in at $3,250,000. As you go down through all the taxes and all the different fees that we collect, right down to small counties assistance, it comes out to the $16,746,347, which is, you can see the actual changes, which is where we got the 7.7% on there. We also have a state reserve listed on there, about 3.8 million.
We don't want to keep on interrupting you. I'm so sorry. Maybe
Go ahead.
we'll let you finish where
No,
you're at.
go ahead. Any questions?
Well, under the, again, gross receipts tax collected, it's not reflected in the final 2023 budget, and it's not listed as a percentage increase. I'm just wondering, you took in over 300,000, a lot of these, you saw increase in the June 30th.
So what you saw was the final numbers that we reported for final budget. These revenue projections and all that were done at interim budget. So whatever information was from interim budget, we just roll it, well, it just carries over into final. We don't adjust any of the revenues or that. So whatever was accepted at interim budget, that's what you're seeing now as a reflection of that. Again, we didn't have the final numbers till last week.
Yeah.
So we couldn't go in and adjust our revenues for final. So what you're seeing is the actual projections from interim budget as far as revenue.
It's still confusing because I'm seeing increases in your actuals as of June 30th.
No, well, that's because that's that's this budget.
But then
We
when
haven't decided.
you give the final budget, there are no significant increases, and I'm just using as an example the gross receipts tax, which saw an increase, and so did property tax. You've reflected that in property tax at the increase, but I see no increase. Change actual fiscal year versus now, and you've not there's no number here, dollar change, like for the gross receipts tax. I'm really kind of confused.
So what you're seeing, revenues are a projection from interim budget. So we basically, for interim budget, we project what we think our revenues are gonna be as far as your taxes, all that stuff. Of course, fourth quarter, we have actuals. So that's why you saw the increases with the actuals, because that's what we actually collected. Whereas what you're seeing for final budget is a projection off of interim budget of what we anticipated we were gonna see.
Yeah.
We didn't anticipate that much of an increase, to our taxes and our collection of fees. So interim budget basically just rolls into your final budget. So whatever we projected as far as revenues are based off the interim budget. We didn't do any adjustments to revenues.
So you do bar adjustments then?
Well, it's not a bar because
or-
we're actually getting, if we undershot our projections, let's say we projected $1 million, we get 1.5, then we actually increased. It wouldn't be an adjustment because we're actually receiving more cash than what we thought we would.
Right.
That's actually, my question is very related, or maybe just stating it a different way, or maybe you're just reflecting my ignorance. So in that example, Antonio, so what happens to that extra $500,000?
It goes back into reserves or
Okay,
whatever. Yes.
Because we're talking about increased GRTs, we're talking about a variety of vacancy
Right.
savings across
So it'll
departments.
just increase our cash balances or whatever and balance that out.
So it goes into the reserves.
But to Commissioner O'Donnell's point, you were circling around it, Commissioner Brush. If we meet GRT, we meet the 1.5 in the month of March as an example. April, May, and June, we can do a budget adjustment and increase that to be reflective, and then we could have a corresponding expense that reflects that increase. So we can increase, do a bar adjustment to match the revenues.
Okay, and what I'm doing, and it might be just slightly different, but I'm comparing last year's with this year's, and I know it's a budget plan. We all know it's living,
Right.
and it can change, but last year's indicates on general fund revenue was over 15 million, and it shows that property tax, 85% of that comes from property tax, but this year only 83% comes from property tax. And
Right.
of course, it's because of the adjustment, like GRT this
'Cause
year
we
is
brought in more
9%,
money.
and last year was 7%. So I guess we're anticipating, hopefully, we're going to see a continued trend up, but we're not going to know this, are we? Until
Exactly.
we keep on moving along.
And that's the thing with the budget is it's more of
It's a budget.
we're
Yeah,
projecting.
We're projecting.
Yeah, even your expenditures, it's the same thing. We're kind of basing it off an average or whatever.
But as long as we have a
last
solid
year,
foundation, which
you want to
is-
make sure you're kind of
Yeah.
middle. You don't want to overshoot your projections and then say we don't hit those, but then yet we budget expenditures to match that level. Well, now we're short. Now you're putting the county in the red. Because then you're increasing expenditures to a number that you might not hit.
Right.
So that's why when you're projecting revenues, you don't want to over project, and well, of course you don't want to under project either, but you want to find kind of a common average or a middle. So that's why for interim, those are our projections. We just carried them into final. We didn't do any real adjustments to revenue because we hadn't saw what was actually collected at the end of the year until last week. We literally saw it on like
Right.
Wednesday.
And recognizing that you all kind of walked into this at the, and thank you for helping us and seeing this through. But I don't know what that budget process is now, Brent. Maybe you can kind of shed some light. From what I can recollect, that budgets, department heads and elected officials would come during that budget cycle to really argue or justify why they need 10,000 in this line item.
Yeah, for the expenditure side, yes.
And if they couldn't justify it, obviously we would adjust it and that money would go.
And we did do adjustments from interim to final. It was almost like $2.5 million worth of adjustments.
Okay, so my
we
question is
did
that
do-
process did happen. Every
Yes.
department head, every elected official had an opportunity to.
At the beginning, yes, and again, I can't speak for my predecessor, but it was last minute. He sent the sheets out right before he went on vacation.
Because otherwise those percentages at the end are always they're not gonna be reflective of what's really, needed, because as an elected official, I would put in whatever I thought I needed. And, of course, we had finance telling me, no, you're not, everything shows that you're not using that money.
Because you have to have enough revenue to cover your expenditures.
So I was just wondering if that process was the same.
So in relation to that, Madam Chair, if I may, moving forward, I'd like to see what these windfalls are. In other words, how much more do we have to work with? How much more can we use to build roads, to give
How much did
the
reserves go up?
whole? Because I don't know if you've done that, but I would like to see a total of what the actuals you took in, what the difference is for this budget. It's not a DFA requirement, but this would help us decide, are we going to build more roads? Are we going to increase salaries? Well, we can't with GRTs. We could maybe, but in other words, what I hear is we have these windfalls coming in, but we haven't decided how they're going to be spent, and we need to have a meeting about that.
So when your first quarter is presented, I don't know, I'm assuming the first quarter gets presented as well. When your first quarter is presented, then you'll be able to see, because you're comparing what your final budget to what we spent. So every quarter, and I think the second and the third quarter are the only ones that don't need your guys's to be presented, but.
It should be a practice that each quarter gets presented to, there's only one statutory requirement, which is the one we just did. But it'd be a good practice to do a quarter.
Then you would have your
Actuals.
actuals and
or even a monthly thing would work as well.
Okay, thank you.
But I don't think windfalls is maybe the right word that you're looking for,
But
Commissioner.
Madam Chair, if I can, to like follow up on what Commissioner O'Donnell, I think is asking, I had the same question, which is, we saw you did a great job presenting fourth quarter, and we saw vacancy savings, we saw GRTs going up. Like, what is the sum total of that, savings / extra revenue?
$7 million.
Thank you. And that is all added to the reserves.
And then that's our beginning cash, so it can be added to the reserves. That's what's happened in every year. So some years we have $2 million over, and that goes into reserves. And then there's, as an example, maybe 2 budget cycles ago, we pulled $1.2 million out of reserves that would go to Blueberry Hill Road. We pulled $750 out of reserves that went to Old County Courthouse.
Okay. So you say can be, did we, when you say can be, are we doing that? Are we going to roll it into the reserves?
We're taking a portion of it to balance the budget.
Okay.
For beginning cash, and then it's going to go into reserves. We didn't earmark anything, but we still can throughout the year go back and pull money from reserves to cover an expense, or it could possibly come out of 399, or like what we did is, I don't remember which one you guys we pulled money out of reserves, stuck it into 399 to match one of our legislative grants.
Right, but compensation in general would not be pulled from there because once again, this is excess, we need reoccurring. And what's really key is like property tax being reoccurring and any other funds that come through that are reoccurring. Okay, got it.
So I'm still on this topic. It's excess money coming in. So you're saying the next quarterly report we will get what month? November?
You get it in November.
And at that point, it will reflect the 7 million you're talking, and then some, because then you'll have more.
Well, depending on what taxes were brought in.
Or
At
collected.
that point, which most taxes aren't collected till the end of the year. Anyways,
I'm just talking about
see-
really gross receipts taxes here, whatever comes in excess. That, the 7 million, is that, maybe that's not the same what you're talking about.
7 million are beginning cash.
Okay, so
That's what we have to start with.
So last year we said we're gonna be $17 ahead and we ended up $2 million ahead, roughly
Oh, wow.
$2 million ahead. And so this year, they said 16 million, and there's some transfers, so it's not exact. 16.7 in revenue, and we're at 15.2 in expenses. Some of it also lost, well, not lost, is in the transfer, so it balances out that way. So we didn't expend all our monies last year because of the vacancy savings. And so what's left is $1,516,420.
And that reserve that's actually on there is automatically taken out because we have to have the 3/12. So that 3.8 million you see, that automatically, we have to save that. That's
Right.
the
We
3/12.
don't touch it.
We don't touch that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, we can meet in November for that, the first quarterly. We'll know what the excess amount received from GRTs. And then as a commission, we could choose additional projects or not.
Or
I
to
mean, I'm
finish.
just, yeah, or
We already know what the excess is. And so the first quarter and second quarter are actually rough on the county because we pay out a couple $1 million to New Mexico counties until we start getting the first half on December 10th. We're not flush with money.
No.
So
we're
this
using
is
our beginning cash balance
where they don't, the treasurer's office doesn't like us to spend money
Yes,
until
that's
actually
right.
the third quarter. And so a lot of things end up waiting till the third quarter because of everything else that comes out.
darn.
Because
Okay.
we actually need whatever beginning cash balances we have now to carry us through that half of the year
Right,
until we start
exactly.
getting
Till we get the
our
other revenues
coming
in
If
December.
not, yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be in
can't
the
pay the
red all the
people, we
time.
can't pay the staff.
Yes, yeah, can't pay the electricity, can't pay nothing.
So typically, if you did want to add projects or whatever, it would actually be that third or fourth quarter. Because then you'd have some money coming in
You'll
and
know
you can-
exactly how much is there to do
Right.
that way.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
Off the top of your heads, how much is payroll?
Payroll right now is about 550,000 per
Pay period.
Yeah, it's quite a bit.
And yeah, it used to be 350, 360, but because of the salary increases, now it's about 500 to 550.
And that includes the medical increases as well, the portion the county has to pay out.
So we have to make sure that we do have that cash.
Absolutely.
To pay
payroll
that,
and all
to keep
so-
payroll and keep the lights on.
So savings, when someone doesn't spend something in their budget,
That all gets put in at the end of the year.
and it can
so
be
we don't
used
need
to offset that.
Yeah,
Okay, deficit.
all right. I don't know if there's any more questions on the
Okay, I'm
revenue.
sorry that we stopped you. We'll let you go now, but that really helps
That's
us
good, that's
to,
good,
yeah,
that's good.
understand.
Questions are good. We'll move on to general fund expenditures. And there's another pie chart there with percentages, which show the general fund expenditures at $50,229,927 rounded out roughly. And you will notice operations is about 14%. The biggest chunk is the county sheriff, obviously, in terms of law enforcement. The least is probate judge, uses very little to none. So you'll see the different percentages there. And behind that is the detailed revenue expenditures for each one. I don't know if this commission wishes for me to go through every single one. I could, it's totally up to you. Or if you reviewed them or not. But I mean, I could go through every single one. There's quite a bit of them through the general operating fund itself.
What are the wishes of the commission? You want her to go through each and every one, or were you satisfied with what you reviewed? Anything?
The biggest thing is to make sure that our ending cash and our beginning cash balances match.
Right. Okay. Okay, give us a second. Yeah, we all
Okay.
kind of put our questions
No
down.
problem.
Okay. Okay, well, I would say go ahead and we'll just address you at the end or later.
Okay.
So continue.
That's fine.
We can shorten that and you don't have to go through that detail.
I know Antonio went through a majority of them, even the fourth quarter, but the pie kind of gives you an idea of
Right, it does.
what we're doing. The next one on tab 2 is detail of transfers. And on here for the final budget, you have listings of your permanent operation transfers as well as your temporary cash transfers, which a majority of those temporary cash, we put it in, we get reimbursed, and then it gets put back into the general fund or whatever fund we used it from. The biggest permanent, obviously the permanent operation transfers are usually the road fund, detention facility, and EMS, as well as the senior citizen fund. There's a $102,800 that goes to the senior citizen department. You'll also notice there's a grant match fund as well out of the 398 where we have a permanent transfer at 800,000. On the second page, it actually shows other funds that also have permanent transfers, which are your correction fees to detention fund, the admin judicial complex to the road fund, the lodger's tax to the debt service, and lodger's tax to the recreation fund, as well as the fire excess fund to EMS, the USDA loan, and then the grand match fund to the old county courthouse. We also have quite a bit here that do come back in or actually back out as permanent transfers. We did increase the detention fund one by 500,000. Am I correct, Antonio? We added 500,000 more permanent transfer, and that's because of the courthouse contract coming forth, and as well as for the summit contract for the meals for the detainees. And then to the EMS fund, there's 285, 450,000 more. That's also going to be a permanent transfer there. But you'll notice it says in and out. Usually the ones that you'll notice that they come in and out depending what fund where we return the money back, whether it's transferred and then put back into the fund that it was dedicated to, whether it's the 399 or the general fund itself. I don't know if you have any questions on that particular section.
I don't, but if I could just, my apologies, back up just a little bit. I know you probably don't need to have these two, but just wondering if you have those numbers. What I have with me is the property valuation historical data, which is used to determine part of the budget. Do we have that?
I personally don't have those.
And the property tax budget supporting schedule. The reason why I'm saying is because we all know that property tax is 83%
Yeah.
of our budget. So, you know, just wondering if we have any information in regards to this.
I don't, do you?
You might discuss your conversations with Paul.
Okay.
The
The property tax, because Paul is the one that provided a, well,
I know we have to provide that for DFA, so I might have.
he might have it
That information.
online. I personally don't have it.
Okay. And once again, it's only because it's a large
Yeah,
piece
it's a
of the
large
puzzle.
piece of it. On tab 3, we're gonna go to the 20100, which is the corrections fee fund. And as Antonio explained, it comes in and it comes out at 45,000, so the ending cash is at 0. As we receive those fees, then we increase that fund and then it gets funneled back out again towards the detention center. So that one will always appear as 0 because it's an in and out. The next is tab 4, which is the DFA fund of the 20300, which is the property evaluation fund. The beginning restricted cash budget is 1.528030 for the beginning cash. And as you can see, we have incorporated any of the revenues projected to come in, as well as including all the salaries, which do include those current increases in there, which give you a total expenditure of 1.549153 for property evaluation. And this also includes the contract services. We got to consider that. What's that program you guys use? Oh, pictometry, which does take a big chunk of that money, which is like that 882,000 where you see on other contracts. I mean, that takes quite a bit of money there, at least over $500,000. I don't know. We're gearing down to the last term on this contract, so we're probably going to be looking at negotiating a new one here soon. So you as the commission will probably be seeing us before you again for pictometry. I don't know if there's any questions in terms of this budget. You can see the expenditures were at $89,663.60 as of June 30th for property valuation. For tab 5, we have the DFA fund of 20400, which is the Public Works Fund. And attached on here, you will see the final budget beginning cash is at $790,705. You will see all the different revenues that come in at $915,387, as well as some the transfer of $500,000. Included in there is, of course, again, all the increases salaries as well as benefits. With the costs, as you can see, even for grounds and roadways went up to $328,000. That was budgeted for the grounds and roadways for the materials and repairs. And then the other increase was also to fuel to $120,000 due to diesel, and fuel is coming down, but we can't project it's not going to go back up again. So there was a little bit, we had to do some bars, there was a little bit of shortfall this year with that department, so we made sure we put a little bit of cushion on the transportation due to they do use their vehicles quite a bit in the equipment. So their total expenditures are $1.854975. The budget, comes out to 1.8 and some change for the year. And they also do have a required reserve of $154,914.58 in their budget. That's accounted for.
Madam Chair, did they budget for any new equipment? Like mowers or? I see the 234,000.
I think they took that into consideration there, but that's something I think we need to look at further in terms of, I know Jason has reiterated, now the interim director is in there, Joe, that we are going to need at least 2 or 3 trucks that I'm aware of, and possibly another mower. So, down the road, again, if there's funding, whether it's through here or the 399 where we find to kind of mirror it or match it, then we'll work with them at that point. But I do know, the vehicles are a necessity. The ones that are no good anymore, from what I understood, that I need to sell, I have been there since I was at the road department, and I've been out of the road department over 10 years. So that just tells you how old some of the equipment is right now. And it's just gotten used up.
I just hate to see this budget decrease.
I don't foresee it decreasing. The infrastructure right now is important, especially in the winter and early spring. I hope it doesn't. We incorporated, even for the vacancies, that they do have those salary, and benefits that are in there. So hopefully everything will come out peachy keen, I hope, by this year. And I don't know, they say we're going to have kind of like a drier winter this year, but colder, so we'll see. I don't know if we're going to have a wet or dry winter. They say that, and then it dumps on us. We can hope, only for more moisture. On the next tab number 6, it's the DFA fund of 20600, which is the state EMS fund. And the restricted cash for final budget is at $91,712. And you'll notice the revenue is $62,651 from the EMS grant of the DOH. And you'll notice that the budgets have been appropriated in there to $117,567, which is a decrease of $13,557. This includes any of the fire districts besides EMS. Of course, this is only used for EMS or any ambulance services for those particular departments. They can't use it for anything else in the fire district. On tab 7, we have the enhanced E911 fund, which is the 20700. And on there, your final budget beginning cash is $2,544,054. And then you also have all your revenues that come in at $1,440,413, which gives you a budget of $1,450,413. And that includes all the salary increases, any of the vacancies that they do have right now, unfortunately, in that department. The maintenance and repair contracts are pretty big. Some of the Motorola did go up in price, obviously. And we also had a a few more bills that did come through this last year that we incorporated into the budget to increase it, to make sure there wasn't a shortfall and having to do so many bars and find the money to pay for it. So that's why it's up to 130 now versus 108. There's some other services that we have to cover through support services that were not included there last fiscal year. And you'll notice I left this section alone in the bottom, the JPA requirements. Wasn't too sure, wasn't given numbers on this, so I kind of left what was there last year. I'm pretty sure those will change as first quarter comes around. But right now, you know, through dispatch, through the JPA requirements, we're required to at least keep. Right now, we left it at 300,000 for the final budget for equipment machinery, and then the imposed reserve of the 1/12 is $120,867.75. For tab 8 for farm and range, it's 2,800 for that DFA fund. You will notice here, like Antonio said, the beginning budget would be $17,448. We have a revenue of 1,500 coming in, which gives you a balance of 17,612 with a little bit of a cash balance. Hoping we can utilize these funds more this year, especially since Ag Center is kind of a hot topic. And I mean, that's what these funds are there for. We need to utilize them as much as we can. I mean, I don't want to see us lose them either, or lose this fund in any way, shape, or form when we're not using it.
Right.
It's money that since I started finance, it has been there off and on and not really used a lot, and I think we should be using it. There's a lot we can do with it. Tab 9 for Fire Protection Fund on 2,900. This is for all your fire districts for their main budget, which is provided through the state fire marshal and through some other income. The beginning budget is at $3,924,799. And then they have revenues of $1,153,403, which gives them a balance or a budget of $5,034,033. I don't know how to say that. So they do have plenty within these 13 different districts. They do utilize a lot of it. Some do and some don't, but it seems more and more now that we have our fire chief and fire marshal, they're actually getting them up to speed and utilizing their money to do their upgrades and keep their equipment up to par with inspection. Tab 10 is the Law Enforcement Protection Fund, which is the 21,100. So this is the LEPF, which we do receive every year for them. We do have nothing in the budget right now since we expended it all and reverted back 48 cents. We do anticipate another 45,000 coming in revenue. And so we placed 41,000 in vehicles since the sheriff's office is planning on purchasing more vehicles at this point to replace some old ones, and about 4,000 for any non-capital items, whether it's bullets or whatever they need in there, another drone, whatever the case may be, what they need to buy, or vests or whatever may be.
Is that really enough?
And uniforms.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is that really enough to purchase vehicles? Because they're pretty pricey, huh?
They're pretty pricey. Yeah, they kind of have to piecemeal it out when they get the quote. They get the quote through state price agreement, but then they also have to go through an outfitter who actually puts in all the lights and all that wiring, just so they can have their computer console and everything in the vehicle, including the cages.
And that money doesn't come all from here?
No. No, those usually come from a legislative grant that they receive, and sometimes if they need a little bit more, sometimes if they find something within their own fund, the general fund, then they use some of that, just like for a radio or something like that, but nothing expensive, or the decals, nothing pricey. Yeah, and the 399 does, we did let them know that we're gonna supplement some of the vehicle money out of the 399 this year to help them buy the 3 that they're looking at. Pickups are hard to get right now. I'm hoping they can, only because they have a higher clearance for where they need to go throughout the county, but we will see as they're coming along the assembly line. Tab 11 is the Lodgers Tax Fund, which is the 21400, which also includes the non-promotional and promotional in here. As you can see, the final budget that came in, the beginning restricted cash is $1,623,188. The revenues are at $1,213,943. Altogether, we should have a $1,422,573 in terms of expenditures and cash balance. I did do a breakdown on the bottom in terms of promotional fund for final budget, as well as for non-promotional, which was kind of what was done last year, what made kind of sense, so you can see the difference between the two. And these are just some items that we placed in there. As you can see, air transportation, we pledged 300,000. The new line item added in there now is the outdoor economics memorandum of agreement for 30,000. So we also added that in there this year as a separate line item to pay that out. But we did increase it to 300,000, which I think is what the county did, am I correct, Brent? Did pledge to the air transportation.
Madam Chair, what are the professional services for?
If we need to hire an auditor to go audit a lodging establishment.
And again, we're back to the temporary positions. We're not clear on that 78,000. It might be split with recreation and finance. I mean,
Yes.
this is still going to be tweaked a little.
Yeah, it'll probably be adjusted within the budget down the road as they decide how to utilize that money.
And the NMSU Extension Office, we don't have an extension agent yet. They'd only asked for 17,000.
Yes, they reduced their fees this year.
But it's showing 20,000.
We left it there like that for now, just to make sure if something does happen or if a slight increase does happen throughout the year, we have the money there without having to do a bar. But yes, it was decreased, so the actual purchase order will have the decreased amount on there. There'll still be some money left in the fund, but probably won't be utilized. It could actually be moved later on if we have to.
And again, I know we're using some of this for the courthouse, but this money could also be used to upgrade the Ag Center.
So, yes or no?
Correct?
Am I
Non-promotional? Or,
Yes, yes.
so I think we need to keep that in mind.
No, and Richard's getting us a price quote to finish up the classrooms and
In the kitchen area.
kitchen area too.
Yes. He's
Okay.
working on that right now, so we can kind of gauge to see what it, a cost may or may not, an estimated cost would be to complete that building.
And so Commissioner O'Donnell, you said extension agent, some funds comes out of here to,
It comes out of here and the 399. I don't know why we don't take it all out of here.
oh, okay. And just so you know, we do have an extension agent that was hired, and I know we will officially, I guess, bring that person into
We should say extension office.
office, not agent, office. Okay, got it. Thank you for saying that.
So,
But
yay, they
just
found
so-
someone.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions? No?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Take extension office funding out of here.
Say we should take 100%.
Yeah, why not? It's there.
Makes sense.
We could possibly look at that and do that. I don't see why. I
Something
think
to
there's
consider,
enough
yeah.
funding to do that. I mean, we'll have to do a bar after, but we can do it. Well, do you have a resolution as well? No, just a bar? Just a bar? Okay. Okay.
Good idea.
It has to be because they're two different. Fund to fund, one.
Fund, you're just taking that out of, you're moving within the fund, so you're taking something from non-promotional and just moving it into that line item.
Will we pay the other one out of that 399?
Yeah, but what Commissioner Bush is suggesting is.
We just
cancel the
leave,
399.
we leave the 399 and pay everything out of
Yeah,
promotional,
just take it out.
non-promotional.
Yeah, then it's.
I mean, out of non-promotion, yeah. Well, yeah, it's just a bar.
So, Madam Chair, just so I'm clear, the temporary position, that was was that for the Economic Development Director or no?
That was for when facilities was using them at the Ag Center, so this was a temporary position. So there's 6 vacancies actually in facilities. And so we're paying some of that salary out of here in the past.
And is that legal?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but it's like, better be legal.
Trust me, we don't want to go to jail anymore.
No, than anyone else, we just want to make sure.
But that's because you're working on the fields or
They're
you're
valid
doing
questions.
recreation. Is that kind of
That's how you justify it?
how you justify it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was done in the past, but if you look at that stuff, arena, sent us last year, but allowable uses, it's in there, because I remember reading it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? No? So let's move on to is it tab 12 for the recreation fund and 217? I think we're already touching on that one. Yeah, so the final budget is at $24,661. And then you have revenues of 3,500 and then a transfer of 70,000. And then you have expenditures of 80,335, and that includes hiring anyone through the recreation fund in terms of salaries and benefits. I know that may be changing here soon, so we'll see what happens with that fund as well and how we're going to utilize it. That is some money that we could use. Tab 13 is the 218, the Intergovernmental Grants Fund. In here, you'll see final budget restricted cash starts at $1,468,699 with revenue of $3,289,674.75. There's transfers in and transfers out of 1.4 million and some change. You will notice in here, this includes, salaries as well as benefits for the individuals who work within the grant funds and so forth. But this also includes that one particular one that Antonio said that we had to zero out, which was a 303. It includes that money in there. It's all logged into this one. So altogether, expenditures come out to 2.8 and some change, 2.875 million.
And Madam Chair, what's private?
The different projects in there vary from the Veteran Cemetery to the county courthouse. They're the various legislative appropriations or grants that we utilize in there. This also includes TADPA. I know they're probably going to get some new stuff in the door. And these are just like all the state grants that we receive or legislative appropriations. They're all like grouped in here together. I do need to get a list from Lori as to all the new grants. I know she was working on an updated list for us to see what's coming in and what's still ongoing. Hoping here soon we can get the old county courthouse going, yay, for the historic county courthouse finally. So a lot of that is kind of incorporated in here in these budgets, including contracts that we use for testing, like geotest, or for the engineer and so on and so forth, if it's necessary. I think these also incorporate a little bit, not a lot, but some monies that we utilize from other legislative appropriations for some of the road projects that we utilize, whether it's for the engineer's portion or to pay some other portion if we get 50,000 here and then we still have the LGRF on the other side, that they get it at Public Works. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions there? No? Let's go to tab 14, the Senior Citizens Fund, the 21900. The final budget or restricted cash starting is at $516,814. And we have a total revenue of $1,086,458. And then we have a transfer of the $102,800 out of the general fund to the Senior Citizen Fund. And you'll notice there's another one that's for $7,000, which is part of the expenditures, which is a separate fund that comes in the door.
It's actually a COVID supply.
Is it a COVID supply one? Yeah. Oh, that's the 185 and all that. Yeah. Okay.
Money that they received.
Oh, yes. We do receive COVID vaccine monies from DOH, so that is the other one that transfers in of that $7,000. With salaries and contracts in place, as well as all the supplies and obviously food and everything else, the expenditures come out to 1.2 and some change, with the ending cash balance of $464,419. They also received increases as well, so that was all incorporated in there. Hoping to see more money as well. Hopefully we're granted. We're hoping AAA. We still haven't anticipated it yet, but they did notify us that they don't know when, but we do anticipate more monies to come in to pay for food and supplies to do more home delivery. So, but it's a pie in the sky. They still haven't gotten an A-OK from the state of New Mexico, so we're still waiting. When that comes around, we'll adjust the budget at that point. On tab 15, is it 15? Yeah, tab 15 is the Healthcare Assistance Fund, the 22,000. This one's the indigent fund. The final budget starts at $1,830,473. And then they have a total revenue of $1,229,524,000. And as you can see, all the salaries, they do have, I think, 2 vacancies right now. So I think it's only Zach and his admin assistant at this point. He needs to fill 2 positions. So altogether expenditures come out to 2.6 and some change with the ending balance of 377,517. You will notice there's some details in the claims line item which indicate, certain amounts that are placed in for the detention contract. Most of the time they don't utilize all 330,000. It just depends what comes in throughout the year for indigent claims through the detention center. And then you have the Medicaid intercept as well as the rehab and detox, mental health, all those broken down to 1.8. And then you also have a health council fund that's broken down to expenditures of 21,000, which I kept the same from what they had last fiscal year, since that fund really wasn't utilized due to COVID for additional training. It's my understanding they're planning on doing so now. Next tab is 16 is the county hospital fund. This one again is an in and out. As you can see, the final budget or restricted cash is at 904,372, which is what Commissioner O'Donnell was asking about. And then you also have revenue of 1.547 in there. I don't know why I have that 6 in there. That's a typo on the name there. But it all balances out to 0 for hospital care and so forth for the final budget for the year.
And Mr. Jaramillo, there's nothing that prohibits us from asking them to come in and explain where this money is being utilized. I think that would be something in the future. Yeah, and I think they.
Sorry, but we could use an extra 2.
Since it is public money that.
Well, it'd be interesting to see where it's going.
So can we, just a thought to, in the future.
Tab 17 would be the fire excise tax fund for the 22200. And this one has a final budget beginning with restricted cash of $1,741,004. And then it has a total revenue of $281,190 with a transfer out of $108,142. The expenditures come in at 1.4 and some change, and the ending cash balance would be 503,014. And this includes all 13 departments for the fire excise fund. We ask that they spend, which is more important right now, we ask them to spend all their 209 and 206 first before they hit the 222, because this kind of comes from us. So we want to make sure that the funds that we can get, the more we spend, the more the state fire marshal will give us. So we want them to expend those funds first before we totally tap into these ones. Because those ones eventually, if we don't use them, we lose them.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, when it says not available, you weren't able to get that data from DWI, which says local grant from the state, a couple local grants, traffic safety grant, and just the actual change, you're saying not available.
What page are you?
On DWI?
On DWI?
Oh, I'm not there.
Or are you not there? I'm
not
sorry,
there yet.
I'm just jumping ahead.
You're
Forgive
ahead.
me.
You're ahead. It's okay. We're moving on to the next tab. I was like, huh? So where are you seeing that, Commissioner O'Donnell?
Right there on the far right, the NANA.
And that's because those particular ones that came in were
last year.
They were not budgeted last year, and they're being budgeted this year. So it's obviously new revenue coming in the door for them.
Yes,
Okay.
That's why you have a comparison.
That's why you have NA, because there's no comparison. Yeah, there's nothing to pull from there. Unfortunately, I had to double check that because I was like, am I seeing wrong? But no, they didn't get anything last year. I had any expenditures in those type of revenues. I thought I was going blind at first too. I was like, you going, huh? Yeah. So restricted cash, or the beginning balance for the final budget, comes in at $632. And then the revenue comes in at $568,156 with a transfer of $24,136. Their expenditures, which include salaries as well as all their supplies and services, as well as some contracts they do carry, with Rio Grande ATP, and then Noble, which is the system they had to report to through DFA. They do have to pay for those licensures. Comes out to $451,769, which gives them an ending cash balance of $392,883. This budget also probably may change with that contract or any contracts that he has in place, depending on what funds aren't utilized before the end of mid-year. So sometimes those are reverted back. They instead of reverting it back, we just reassign them to a contract or reassign them to another service that they can find to provide for that program. They do have 2 vacancies right now and are looking, hoping they will find people in there to help them out, and they're also pretty strained. Tab 19 is the clerk recording and filing fee fund, the 22,500. On the clerk recording fee fund under restricted cash, the final budget starts at 272,929 with a total revenue of 57,025, and the expenditures at 217,899, which leaves you ending cash balance at 112,055. This includes travel or any transportation costs. I know because of COVID, a lot of us haven't traveled and done virtual training, so a lot of that wasn't really utilized this last year. Some of the contracts were, and some furniture, and I mean, any employee training they did use was to pay for any of the virtual training that they did with their employees through that fund. Tab 20 is the detention fund, the 22,600. Let me turn the page here. The restricted cash beginning balance for final budget is $967,832. The total revenue is $463,672, and then the total transfers in is $2,595,000, which increased a little. And then
Madam Chair, again, the vending proceeds, concession proceeds, you have that blank.
Yeah, there was nothing reported on our end. I didn't see any money coming in that way.
Once a line item's created in the system, you can't remove it.
And sometimes I think
So,
that just didn't have
I
anything
think,
last year
yeah.
either.
But,
You probably just removed it from that sheet there.
so we have a vendor who does the vending concession,
Probably way back when, like. it's
But
hard to
we
say
do
when
now.
utilize that line item.
and I remember some
Well, I
contract
think,
that
on the
they get
commissary,
we get a percentage of
we get a
their,
percentage, I think, from commissary, but majority of the commissary goes straight to Summit. And then I think what they do is just pay the county back, but I've never seen anything in terms of the percentage of what comes back. And I
I
don't know
know
how much
it's
commissary.
small, but they charge a fortune for
Oh, I'm
poor
pretty sure they do,
prisoners.
yeah.
And we were supposed to get some kind of percentage of that.
Yeah, and I didn't see anything in the reports itself that was put in at all for that type of service. So that's a question I can ask.
Yeah, why don't you just,
I can ask
want to know
Summit to see what's
what our
going on.
prisoners paid.
Sure, no problem.
Madam
go
Chair,
ahead.
there's, Ms. Veal, just down toward the bottom, I think there's a number that got shifted up. If you look at employee training and insurance, in the second column, I think the 299,000 number got moved up to training. Just a little glitch there. See what
Oh,
see what I mean?
yes, that might have been 9,000. Might have been, I'll correct that.
Thanks.
On the expenditures, right? Okay,
Exactly, yeah.
I'll correct that. I saw that there. No, thank you.
Thanks.
It might have been just the.
Yeah,
The bun
it's easy
tie.
to do, for
Yeah,
sure.
okay. So altogether, on the final budget, the ending cash balance is 2,105. I do want to remind the commission that through the detention fund, and depending when that contract gets approved, especially for core health, we budgeted enough, and we'll review it again at mid-year to see if there is going to be a slight increase or not to that particular budget for the medical care. At that point, I kind of didn't want to put a whole lot in there right now, only because of the reserves or the cash that we have. I just want to make sure we're going to have what we have in the door after Paula, brings in that money, to make sure we can, cover just enough to cover it all. But we have enough now to encumber at least for the first 6 months, and then we will increase it as time goes on, as the income or revenue come in. Number 21 is the county education GRT fund, the 232,200. As you notice, the final 2023 budget restricted cash comes in at $2,256,996. And then we have a revenue of 3,661,939, which gives us an ending cash balance of 5,557,096. I do know, I think, and I'm not sure how Paula explained to me, but I think we did receive the new GRTs coming in that are going to go in place. So she was going to plan on putting that in there. And we start, like I say, they go, I don't see it here, but they're going to go direct from NMFA to those people to reimburse, which makes more sense than what we're doing right now. It's just cutting out the middleman. 22, they call it the Convention Center Fund, which is also the Community Center Fund, the 241-100. And as you notice, the restricted cash comes in at 5,462 with revenue anticipating at 15,000. We'll see how we fix that. And then expenditures at 19,747, which leaves us an ending cash balance of $715, which is kind of where that cash is coming in the door. I'm hoping we can fix the bugs and all that and start getting those fees in as well, to help assist those community centers and kind of take the burden off the general fund in a lot of areas. Tab 23, we have Title III Forest Reserve Fund for the 25,000. The beginning cash for final budget is at 35,934 with the revenue of 30,000, which gives us our expenditures at 38,513, which will be all incorporated into the contract. They're called Enso, are they Enso Forestry or something like that? His name is Garrett, so he'll be taking on a portion of the WUI coordinator as well as a portion on training on the fire side to provide that type of training for wildfire and so forth. Tab 24 is the American Rescue Plan Act Fund, which is the 2,600. On there, the final budget for restricted cash came in at 2,248,551. Revenue, nothing. Obviously, this is the first tranche. And then no transfers, but as you can see, we incorporated some money into the salaries due to our fiscal year, the way it crossed with payroll. We had that additional 40% or 4 days left in June, even though we cut the check in July. So we had to make sure we incorporate those expenses to offset the negative of what was paid out to Patty Sunday for her last paycheck. So that's what those are. Those will disappear eventually off the salary side and should go to zero once final budget's approved. We did have, as you can see, under maintenance and repairs and ground runways, we have 61,951, and then under contract we have 1.7 million and several other amounts. I'm not sure if the commission has looked at that and made sure that those are correct in terms of that's where they were placed in last year, and we kind of kept it there. We just updated the balance, which gives us expenditures of 2,248,550 for this tranche one. I do know we do have to spend it very quickly, so I'm hoping we get a little bit more direction of what we need to do, especially on the purchasing side, so we can get this moving. Hey, I like to spend the money. I don't mind spending money. It's just, I just want to make sure we're doing it right and doing it the right way so we can get it in and out right away. And that way we're ready for the second tranche that hopefully comes in. We can show them on the reports. Tab 25 is the Treasurer Special Revenue Fund. On here is the 299 and the 298. This is where I broke it out between the treasurer and the sheriff. So you'll notice the treasurer's under 29900. Their final budget or the restricted cash amount for 2023 is 129,173 with a revenue of 204,893. Incorporated in there is overtime and travel, as well as other contractual services, equipment, and other capital purchases, which give her a total expenditure of 303,335, which give her ending cash of 30,731. And then on the sheriff's special revenue, which is the other 299, or what we call the 298 on our end, the final budget starts in at 87,940 on restricted cash with a revenue of 28,600, which gives them total expenditures of 116,540, which actually gives them about 58,600 in overtime again in there for them to utilize. This also includes supplies and $20,000 towards their vehicles as well. So it basically gives you an ending cash balance of zero. So as you can see, the treasurer does collect a lot more, so therefore their budget's a little bigger. in terms of how it's allocated due to what they collect in the door through the treasurer's side in revenues and fees. Number 26, you have the CDBG or Community Development Block Grant, the 30200. And in there, we're starting with restricted cash of 255,011 with a revenue of 746,990, and then a transfer of $5,010 with expenditures that are 992,697, which gives us an ending cash balance of 4,294. So a lot of it's still being encumbered and still being utilized, but we're hoping that this itself will probably be closed out sooner than later, since we're also trying to meet that deadline of spending the money. So again, hoping this contract goes through and we can move forward in getting that historic county courthouse going with the ADA and all the requirements required on that building. Number 27 is the State Legislative Appropriations Fund, the 303. This is the one that we zeroed out with those adjustments due to the fact that it was a duplicate budget that was placed in for this appropriation that should have been in the 218. So as you can see, the budget itself equals 0. We zeroed it out with the adjustments in there. The next fund is the 399, the Other Capital Projects Fund, which is tab 28. And in here in the 399, we have a restricted cash or beginning balance of 2023 of 6,633,533. We have a revenue of 5,749,430 and a transfer of 298,214 with expenditures adding up to 8,086,201, which gives us an ending cash balance of 3,998,548. So again, since we're wanting to move those expenditures for MSU from here to there, that would be fine, because that would open up a little bit more money in the 399 for us to utilize for those special projects that are listed. Number 29 is the GRT Revenue Bond Debt Service Fund. The beginning balance of restricted cash is FY 2023 is 5,216,852. And then you have a revenue of 3,713,769.48 with transfers of 3,139,705.42 and expenditures of 386,140, which gives us an ending cash balance of 8,209,186.90. And that's for the bond debt service. This is the other revenue bond debt service. The next one, the 403. I kind of split these two apart, even though they're combined together in fourth quarter as the 402 and 403 combined as one. I separate them on the final budget. For the 403, the final budget starts at 6,343,674, which also includes some investments, which gives us a total of 7,249,674. The revenue coming in is 10,845,535. The transfers are 488,634, and the expenditures are 4,418,403, which gives us an ending cash balance of 13,188,172. And I know a lot of those are probably locked up as it is in bonds and loans and other items. Tab 31 would be solid waste. Am I correct? Yes, solid waste fund, 50200. So solid waste, the restricted cash or beginning balance for 2023 is $1,180,274. The total revenue is $1,174,801, and the total expenditures is $1,818,887, which gives us an ending cash balance of $536,188. Incorporated in there is also the vacancies that they are seeing right now and hopefully filling here soon within that department for drivers and other individuals in there. Under vehicles, right now we have 3,500, but as you can see under equipment machinery, we did incorporate the 165,000 still there. So for any reason we do find the equipment that's necessary for them, whether it's a skid steer or whatever they need, I mean, it's just hypothetical, the money will be there.
Madam Chair, where do the landfill fees we have to pay, where is that coming out of? I don't see it. It's a huge amount.
Contract other services, it shows 308 and 320. It's quite high. That's why I'm saying I hope we get people in the door.
I thought that was the waste management contract. I was just wondering what we pay the landfill to dump.
Oh, the landfill itself?
Yeah,
Oh, the tipping fees?
the tipping fee. Where would you find that?
Yeah, that's what unless that is the tipping fees, then the other one is probably,
Because it's high.
yeah, it is high. It's about, was it 200 and some thousand? I'm thinking that 308 is that. I need to figure out where, hold on, let me see. Full-time, I don't even want to touch those. Transportation. I don't know.
So we're paying the waste
I know what you
management?
mean. So I'm thinking the 200 and some thousand come out of other services. We may have to look at revising this to include waste management. I didn't realize that in there right now till you pointed it out. It's probably both in there in the 308. So I think waste management's like 100 and some thousand,
Okay.
and then the rest is 200 and some
Okay.
thousand. But it may or may not have to increase just depending if we get employees on board, obviously
Right.
with waste management. I'm hoping we do because they are very limited on funds in that enterprise fund there.
And so what do we bring in from the collection of the fees? If I'm looking at this correctly, is it the 780,000? The enterprise fund revenue?
Yes,
Okay. And
that's the projected amount, yes.
okay. And yet that's just a percentage, right? Because we don't collect the
Yeah.
entire. Yes. Okay.
Number 32 is the Taos EMS Ambulance Fund, the 00. The restricted cash or beginning balance for 2023 is $426,801. The revenue anticipated is $1,046,272, and the transfer in is $715,241, which I think comes out of the general fund. Of course, you have salaries and positions in there, temporary and full-time. I know there's several temporary that have left and possibly some other full-time that may leave or retire soon. So that's in anticipation of that as well. Altogether expenditures are $2,185,002, and the ending cash balance is $3,312. So as you can see, the ending cash balance, there's not too much movement. I do know that we anticipate some legislative appropriations coming in, obviously for the new ambulance, and then as well as from Holy Cross Hospital, we're probably going to receive more funds to purchase another ambulance. So there's possibly one or two more that we're going to be ordering. They do take quite a while to make now. I found out they take about almost a year.
Wow.
So you got to put in, your interest in saying, yeah, we're interested in ordering one so they can anticipate in making one. But they are getting very expensive. They've increased quite a bit, like, I don't know, like 189,000 to almost 250,000 right now for an ambulance. So it's quite pricey just because of all the electronics and chips and so forth that they have to do to make it. And then a lot of the parts come obviously from out of state or out of country. Tab 33, DFA Fund 70300, which is the gross receipts taxes held for others. Sorry, I must have taken out the lines here. Beginning cash is 53,292 for restricted cash, and then revenue is 365,758, and total expenditures is 365,758, which leaves us to 53,292, which I don't see either of anyway, so my end just for record. And then last but not least, we have the LGBMS report, which is the fund recap, and as you can see for the final budget, it ties in, the cash balance ties in with the treasurer's report of 51,232,345. But, again, we're looking at the balance to making sure all those balances tie in at the bottom, which is the 46,707,780 for the final budget.
No, that's.
Oh, or is that different? That's our beginning cash?
It should be our beginning.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, the 51,232,345. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong column. And then, of course, you have the detail behind it that breaks it out, the revenues and expenditures with all the ones I just presented. And then also attached on 35 is your supporting schedules that were provided by the treasurer's office to finance. With the additional information, the property tax budget, the S5
Actually,
form.
there's the sheets you're asking for.
These are the sheets you were asking for? Yes.
I just have that.
Oh, yeah, and the revenue sources as well as the county official salaries and the schedule investments. These are all provided by our county treasurer.
What tab is that again? The
That's
property
tab 35. It's at the
35.
back.
That's the sheet she's asking.
And I'm sorry, but I didn't get to
No, that's
everything
okay. There's
yesterday.
just so much,
As
there's
I
just
tried
so
to.
much to look
Well, I
at.
couldn't remember which report was on.
Well, those are the ones that I didn't get.
Thank
that
you.
Printed for me, yeah. So these are the property tax budget scoring schedule that you're looking for, Commissioner.
Perfect, thank you.
And then behind that is the salary schedule, which is the salary schedule recap that we were provided for preliminary. That's the same one we utilize now. Of course, if the PRA passes for the 1% and so forth, obviously that will change here soon too as well in the salary schedule. Not sure if you have any other questions or comments. I'll make sure I correct that error that was brought to my attention to make sure I correct that budget there.
Madam Chair, if I may, on your, are you going to go through your supporting schedule? Because what I see here under commission yearly salaries are incorrect. It is correct for the two newly elected of 30,196, but for the three of us, we don't get that. That was a state law change. We get 27,400. So just to point out, I would love to get the 30,000, but we don't.
Well, this is for the budget for the net. So we have to project for what the incoming is going to start at.
So, yeah, this one here is not
I,
correct, but they do have the correct numbers for it. So the new incoming commissioners will get.
the 30,196. Okay, so this is for the next fiscal year 2022, 2023, which is next year's budget?
No, that's this.
Starting calendar year, we have, the correct numbers will be inputted in January 1. Everybody will get paid correctly.
Okay, but you know this is not
This is not correct, no.
correct.
Yes.
Okay, you're aware of
It'll
that.
have to be corrected, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Let me put a sticky there so I remind myself.
And then I wanted to ask, I don't know, were you going to present on these supporting documents or not? Because you don't have maturity dates on these CDs, investment dates, which would be good for the commission to know when these CDs are maturing, when the investment date was. And I know that comes when the treasurer meets with the chair.
Yeah.
They have the list of all these CDs, when they were purchased, when they come due. And I'm just wondering, is this another item you're going to add to?
Again, this was provided by Paula from the treasurer's office, so that's a question for her.
Could we, Madam
She'll be
Chair?
able to provide that
She'll be able
info.
to answer.
But you don't have to submit this to DFA.
No, just the
Okay.
LGBMS
Okay.
side of it. No, but this is more for us.
Okay.
Which
You know.
is, perhaps, Madam Chair, we could have our treasurer come and also present and
Right.
talk through items like this with the maturity, because I agree, Commissioner O'Donnell, the maturity dates.
Right,
are
and
important.
in the
Okay.
past, it used to be like that, where they would present, and I have most recently talked to our county treasurer, and so, yes, hopefully going forward, we can get to that point.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know.
Thank you. I don't know if there's any other questions?
Well, let's see. So we didn't see any additional staff being added in because we're having issues just hiring.
Just hiring?
There was no request to add in additional staff?
There was, but we had already uploaded all the salary schedules and that, so that's why those salary schedules don't match as far as elected as well, because we were provided this information after we had already did our upload. So these are gonna have to be corrections that are made throughout the year, during the year,
Okay.
because all these changes happened right at the end.
Right,
One adjustment as far as salary schedules is like 20 or 30 adjustments in LGBMS.
right, which is why
So-
the process
Yes, because
before
even,
used to be you meet up front so
yes,
that
even
you're.
GNOC provided us a whole updated salary schedule, but every single one was changed. Because I don't know if she drug the percentages down or what.
The para
But if you do the math, 251 employees plus you're elected and all that,
And that doesn't include the TRADIC system
that's
as well
like
to intern
5
as well.
changes in LGBMS, so it would have
Plus
been
the
like
one on the
over
other one.
2,000
So,
changes.
so then how are we going to address it going forward? We know it's there, it's going to happen.
So what we wanted to do was wait also, because now after us is the para percentages too, so that's going to affect the salary schedule.
So
as
we're
well.
gonna adjust the budget
So we're gonna
accordingly at that
adjust,
point.
what we'll do is we'll get a finalized salary schedule based on all these changes, and then what I'll do is I'll just upload it and send it to DFA and say, hey, these changes happen afterward. And
Do you know how many additional staffing was requested? I mean, do we have a number?
just the one for animal control is the only one, and we actually did make the adjustment. We did take the 60,000 out of the sheriff's budget
And moved it to
and
animal.
moved it into full-time.
For animal
So
control.
that was the only position that was created.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then another question on the compensation that we're hoping to see completed, the study for the employees, and
Yeah,
I'm
see, that's
anticipating
another- yeah.
that we're going to see the need for increases.
Exactly.
So I guess, Brent, my question, and then whomever can answer, when we get to that point, where does that comes out of the 399 for one, right? No.
No,
How
that
do
would
we?
come out of the general fund for the salaries.
399. I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Everybody is gonna have to make cuts.
At that time, is
Yes,
Only
it will
one-
have to adjust.
The only one that already made their cuts is, and you saw it today, is actually Public Works.
okay, so we'll have to consider that they've already done that.
Yeah.
But rather than make like all these other changes, and then we're gonna have to go back and we just figured it would be easier.
At the time.
The one
To
that, yeah, the
adjust
salary
it.
schedule that
Yes.
was already uploaded and approved by you guys and DFA, we used that salary schedule because that one was where we were at. But going forward with all these changes, we want to make sure that we incorporate all of them.
Got it.
And just do one DFA resolution.
And since
to
we're
update
doing
the
that
whole-
1% or once it gets approved for PRA,
And
then
then,
we'll
like
do
you
it
said,
all
the
at
comp
once.
study, if it comes out in October, I'd rather just upload one corrected salary schedule, maybe at like midway point or something.
That way we don't have to do duplicate entries every other month, where we're having to do it all over again and again and again
Because last
for
year
the
alone, we did
employees.
105 bars. I mean, so that budget wasn't
Okay.
perfect either.
So if the commission
So-
decides, Brent, because I know we've put out a couple of requests, like, for example, a PR person, or, where would we get, we're going to have to find the money, is basically, we've not considered at this point where that money would
Right.
come
Yes.
from. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Any questions, commissioners? Okay, well, I'd like to say thank you very much, first of all, for your hard work. I know.
You're welcome. That was we're not done yet. No.
I know you're not done, but to get to this point, right?
Yes.
And so thank you. I know what's been, it's a lot of work. I
We
get
still
it.
got the audit coming, so there's another hurdle.
Okay. So with
Thank
that
you.
being said, okay, we are on, let me just get my bearings here. We're on C. And so approval, is there a motion to approve? I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I will second with my thanks to you both. Thank you.
For the record, you should ask if any.
Oh, yes, thank you. So it is a public hearing, so are there any questions? Nope. Anyone else? Anyone online? I can't see who's, thank you, Jason. Is there any questions for anyone that is online? If there are, please unmute yourself and then we'll go from there. And I don't see anyone. Vice Chair, do you see? Do not. Okay, thank you though for that, Commissioner O'Donnell. Okay, seeing none, we have a motion to approve the 2022-2023 final budget. And a second and that was by Vice Chair. And so any discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote. Ms. Tammy?
Commissioner Gallegos? Chair Vigil?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, there was a question in the chat.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I don't see that. Let's see.
Well, that's why
Who's with that travel? Who is NA?
I don't know who that is.
We don't know who it is, so.
Time numbers.
Okay, just a comment.
That is inaccurate because approvals of salary changes got done last week at the last meeting. So that's inaccurate. Just want to point that out.
Okay, and I'm really
I'm sorry,
sorry.
I don't know who that is. That's anonymous.
Yeah, the
but-
chat, if, I don't see him, so, and it's hard. I know that sometimes people think we're ignoring, but I don't see it until it's posted like that. But thank you, Jason, for posting it. Appreciate it. Okay, moving on to contracts, agreements, and, I'm sorry, MOUs and bids.
Oh, did they get-
And do we need a break
Oh, no.
before
I
we
don't
go?
think you guys.
No, they already voted.
We voted.
Oh,
We're
well,
good.
thank you guys.
Thank you.
Great work. Great work.
No, we voted, we're good.
Madam Chair, I would really like a break at this point.
Okay.
And I second that.
Okay, motion.
So I would make a motion, Madam Chair, for a 10 to 15-minute break.
Okay, let's do a 15-minute break.
I will second that.
And we have a motion and a second for 15-minute break. Please call for the vote.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes?
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Vigil.
Yes. We will be back in 15 minutes.
This conference will now be recorded.
We are now back from break, and we're now starting up at 12:08. And so let's move.
Motion to come back.
Oh, yes, thank you. Motion to come back, Commissioners. I
I'll
forgot.
make a motion to come back.
Second.
Please call for the vote.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes?
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Vigil.
Yes, thank you for keeping me straight.
And Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to bring back from the table, because we tabled the next item, make a motion to bring back item 8A.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, then call for the vote.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes?
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Vigil.
Yes. Okay, so 8A, discussion, consideration, and decision regarding TCC 2022-32 Core Health PLLC for the amount of $1,052.89 exclusive of New Mexico GRT, payments to be made in 12 monthly installments for on-site medical care for detainees at the Taos County Detention Center. And I believe we've got with us our detention director. Is that correct, Mr. Garcia? Will you be presenting, or who's up?
This is a request for proposal for care detainees. As you recall, Core Health was won the RFP. There was another competitor. This is the final negotiated contract. There's been conversations between Mr. Silva, Mr. Garcia, all of members of Core Health. Ms. Brumley's worked on this agreement. The attorneys from Roswell and I have also reviewed it. This has gone back and forth over the last several weeks. So it's our recommendation to approve this contract.
Okay, yes. Would you like to add anything to that?
Not right at this time. We're just hoping to get it approved today.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions?
I have no questions. They were answered today, and the manager answered, but I do want to clarify that in the packet, under page 15 in the exhibit of core health, it is not reflective. It's the 24/7 proposal. It's not the 16/7. So if you could go through that, tell us what is we're getting, because there were changes. It's not, it's just, you know, somebody were to look at it, you'd think we were approving a 24/7.
No, it's every reference, I couldn't find where it said 24/7 yesterday. I did find.
Well, it's the red line checklist that I am referring to.
But it's 16/7.
So it's exhibit,
Mr. Garcia did want 24/7, but we could not afford 24/7. And we were trying to do a hybrid model. So
no, that's fine, but I just for clarification, because I know we're going for the 16/7, but it is starting on page 15 of the packet as an exhibit, pricing.
So, Madam Chair.
This one is just not the 16/7. That's all I wanted to point out. In the checklist, if someone were to look at it, they aren't providing x-ray services. They don't have an x-ray on site. We're not doing MAT, as was pointed out today. Why? It's not necessarily the cost. It's because there's no holistic approach in Taos. So just to clarify that, it's proposed, okay, but I just wanted to make sure these things were understood.
So if I may, Madam Chair, the proposed and members of the commission, which I think you're seeing here, because I was part of the negotiations that went through this. So we did request a bid for 24/7 and 16/7. There's about a $200,000 discrepancy within both of those functions that were within this contract. What we are receiving, what it shows here is on call as 24/7. So that's what we are receiving within the 16/7 portion. So that's what the on-call services. So
I know that's not what I'm talking about, but as you go through the checklist, Matt is checked here. There's just some services we're not going to get because we didn't do the 24/7. I just wanted to point that out to the commission. That's it. No big deal.
But if I can clear up the negotiations that we still have ongoing till we finalize the budget, and so how would I say this? We're going to approve the contract, but we may come back for an amendment, because what the proposal was a hybrid model of 24/7, whether it's going to be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and then 16/7, since those are our busiest days. We are going to change this up, and we'll be coming back before the commission for that approval. But at this point, till we finalize the budget, we knew that we could afford these additional services as Warden Garcia has requested. So we still want to support our staff with this. Mm-hmm. The budget had to be approved prior so we can identify that. So I just want to make sure that this is going to probably come back up within the next month or two.
I think the reference for on-call, even though they're physically here 16 hours a day, it's on-call for 24/7. So the document is right in the packet.
Well, it's not. The checklist says MAT. I'm just pointing out, you're not going to do MAT. There's no x-ray services on site. I think they have an EKG on site. Is that correct? But that's all. It's no big deal, but I don't think we wanted to mislead the public. If they didn't look at this carefully, they might have, even under this category, under the 1 million, which we are also agreed to a price increase in year 2, just so you know, that we can't do MAT. Don't even bother, because we heard today that it's a holistic approach, and we cannot do MAT unless the community rallies and we get more medical providers to hand off these people to. Abe explained it to us. So I wanted to apologize of my adamancy that we have Matt. Now that I understand it, we cannot do it. We don't have a holistic approach. There's no handoff. The two physicians, El Centro and Taos Medical Group, they are licensed to have 30 that they treat for heroin addiction. They are full. There's a 3-month waiting list. It doesn't work, okay? I just want to be clear. Now I understand it. Don't even bother negotiating it unless we got our own nurse practitioner separate from the jail or that could prescribe Suboxone. It's just a broken system, okay? So that specifically is not correct. I know you wanted it, you may have wanted it, but now that we understand, we can't do it. I don't have a problem with the contract, I got all my questions answered.
If I may.
Yep, please, absolutely, Shannon.
So I'm happy to reach out to Mr. Hammond, who is the attorney from Court Health that I've been working with, and get some clarification on this MAP program and either have it taken off or somehow better defined as to what that they're providing. And then as far as the on-call 24/7, 365, that's for emergencies.
I understand.
We can actually define that in there too so that it reads more clearly to the public.
Right. So.
And if I may say, in regards to Matt, I don't know enough about it, but we did hear one side, and I don't think we've really had a full discussion as to whether or not, others believe that it can work or we can make it work. So in all fairness, I think we need to remember we heard from one person. So, and I'm not just regarding that proposed, or what is it, their thought on it, but we should certainly consider others before we proceed. That's just a comment. Anything else?
I would change my recommendation to, I recommend to the commission that they approve a contract with Court Health and authorize the chair to sign the final best negotiated price for this annual contract.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions before we move forward for a motion? If that is the wishes of the commission.
No, Madam Chair, I would just like to move that we approve TCC 2022-32 Core Health PLLC for the amount of $1,001,052.89, exclusive of state GRTs. And with that, also authorizing you as chair to negotiate the final best negotiated price and cost, with the understanding that on page 15, this is just proposal, that it says it's open for discussion.
Great.
I will second that with just brief discussion, if I may.
Okay, so we have a motion by Vice Chair, and I'm not going to restate it, state it very well, and second by Commissioner O'Donnell, and now discussion.
Just that, so I'm sure you saw it, that mental health is only provided several times a week. The psychiatrist is only coming in, or telehealth, 2.5 hours a week. So I don't know if that's sufficient for the needs of our mental health professionals. So it's 12 hours of mental health services a week, and that is on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So just so the public is aware, and the psychiatrist is available on Wednesday for only 2.5 hours. So just so we know.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to approve, and please call for the vote. Ms. Tanner?
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush?
Yes.
Chair Vihel?
Yes. Great, thank you. So next we've got before us is Discussion, consideration, and decision regarding contract TCC 2022 -33, is it Franken Construction Company, $1,592,695 inclusive of New Mexico GRT, restoration, rehabilitation, and ADA upgrades to be done at the historical Taos County Courthouse. And Richard, we are excited to hear from you, right? Are you going to be, who's speaking? Nice seeing you, Mr. Garcia. You too.
So Mr. Sanchez has worked very hard over the last few months to negotiate out a final contract with Franklin Construction. We did have prior authorization a few months back for me to sign the contract, but because there'd been such a time gap, we thought it was in the best interest to come back to the commission and let them know that this is the final negotiated contract, and that we're ready to proceed with Franklin Construction and sign the contract.
Okay. Great. When's the start date?
Yeah, it is quite a project. It's been quite a journey, and it's still going to be a long journey. Franklin Construction has been in business quite a long time and has done a lot of historical renovations over the last decades in Santa Fe, the Palace of the Governors, along with our architectural firm. This is the CDBG, and so there's right at $1 million, just a little bit under $1 million in CDBG, and then we have an additional $500,000 from the county. The bulk of this money will be used for demolition and infrastructure related to the CDBG. The west alley will be taken out. We need to put in a new storm drain. That's not ADA, that will come out of our money. We're going to take down the portal on the plaza. That will be ADA money because it's the primary ADA entrance. We'll start the new sewer line also, which goes under the area where the elevator lobby and the handicap access and fire exit will be from the north side. So this chunk is going to be a lot of demolition, not a lot of construction. We're hoping that we will also get the foundation work done for the elevator. Once that's done, then we have one more big, well, a bunch of big ones, but we have to bring three-phase power to the building, which is located, the closest three-phase is over on Bent Street, because elevators run on three-phase power. That side of the plaza doesn't have three-phase power. So that's going to be the next big chunk of infrastructure. We received the paperwork from our federal representative, so to start on another $1.26 million. Well, that'll bring in our last of our utilities, maybe get our elevator built, and then start with some of the demolition on the inside. It's going to be a long haul. Hopefully all the funding comes through and we can just keep it moving forward. If we had all the funding, phase one would be at least 18 months. Right now, we're starting. We're probably going to be at 12 months. If we get all the funding, we can increase this contract because we have broken the project up into phases.
Okay.
And so we can continue doing change orders and expanding until we expend the money.
So when would be the start date if this is approved? When is the start date for
start date? We would
demolition?
have to do a pre-construction meeting, and then we'd probably do a pre-construction walkthrough and get a schedule first. I'm going to say, I mean, we're August right now. We execute the contract, they're ready to go. It's probably going to take 2 to 3 weeks to mobilize and get everything set up to start. So I would think late August, early September is when we'd start the demolition. There are some things that the county, to keep costs, we have to take the steps down on the north side of the plaza. That's something that we'll take care of this next month. And that's about it. That we can handle.
Okay.
So I'm hoping end of August, definitely by
Okay.
early September.
Because as you are aware, there are individuals out there that want to continue a conversation, and we certainly don't want to stop the project. We know, at least from my perspective, and other commissioners can certainly speak their minds, but I don't want to see the project stop, but I think that it gives us a little bit of time to talk to these individuals to let them know that it's what's going on, you know.
Like I mentioned to Mr. Sanchez, and to use the chair and vice chair, we do, in my mind, need to have a minimum of 2 public meetings and invite all the plaza merchants. I did meet with the Chamber of
Thank you.
Commerce yesterday on this, and they're willing to help
Oh, great.
get the word out and help advocate for this, as well as the Chamber of Commerce also committed Charles from Main Street to help us with this as well.
Thank you, Brent. That is wonderful. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
great. And part of the problem, I think some of the lack of communication was not so much on our part, but the way the process is, we notified property owners within the 300 feet, which is quite a few. I believe it was 52. And so property owners don't necessarily speak to their tenants about that kind of stuff. And so there was some, but there were a couple of vocal people that were actually notified. So I'll just leave it.
Well, thank you for explaining that process. Yes, Vice Chair.
Madam Chair, just to add on to that, I'm glad to hear that conversations with the Chamber and Main Street are happening, and I appreciate your comments about reaching out to people who have already voiced an interest in this. But I would just encourage us, and I'm happy to help in whichever way I can, to spread the word far and wide about what's happening and why, and the background, just even to people who haven't been paying attention, you know, who might have been paying attention 12 years ago when it started. I just think that we really do need to get that story out in front of everybody as much as we can.
Yes,
So thank you, Richard. Thank you for moving it forward.
Yes. Okay, commissioners, anything else? Any other questions?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you for finally getting this done. And in reading this, they will not begin the elevator. They'll just do a foundation. So they're not going to be tearing out any walls currently in the old historic courthouse. So you're going to demolition the west side.
Yes.
Do all that. So this does not include installation of the elevators.
No, the elevator by itself is, last time I checked, was right around $125,000. That's separate of the building, just the car and the hardware and whatnot. So what we're focusing on is really building and having good cutoff points. We do have an existing door that opens up into that area. We will have to secure that door, and it will be eventually opened up more, and then also that window up of the top of the stairs to go into the second story elevator lobby. But right now, that won't happen. It's going to be the alleyway, the portal, and infrastructure.
Okay, because my concern is, you know, the gaping adobe on the west side. I don't know. I'm hoping when you demolish the building on the west side that it doesn't undermine that area. I just hope somehow you could shore that up a little internally to make sure if they start demolition, so it doesn't undermine that west, what is it, the north or
southwest corner?
Southwest corner, yes.
Yeah. No, it won't, and we'll probably do some additional shoring up there to, you know, architect has looked at it. I've looked at it. It's something we need to address the roof. It's kind of hard to, that's been leaking for 10 years at least, and it's something that's been put off. We need to do at least a little bit of
stabilization
of the roof. And the roof, the building structure is pretty good. The good thing, good and bad, good thing about what we're actually taking out isn't even attached to the courthouse. All its attachment points, all the roof structure is north and south, not east. Nothing is attached to Reed Weimer's building to our rest, and nothing's, other than the roofing, and nothing's attached to the courthouse. So,
And Richard, I think what we need here is hours of operation. I think the merchants need to know, are they going to be getting all the demolition to the back? Is it going to interfere with merchants in the front? In other words, I think the merchants need to know the hours of operation of when they're going to do this work and how all that debris is going to be removed. Obviously, you don't want to keep removing it right on the front of the Taos Plaza, but I think that's important for the merchants to know that these are the hours of operation, and even if they could start 7 in the morning, I mean.
that will all be part of the pre-constructions to discuss with the contractor and a schedule. And then also, as things change, I mean, you're not going to want to tear things off while it's raining. You're not going to want to cut the plaza when it's snowing. Town of Taos wants us to take the new storm drain, even though we're not adding any additional watershed. Instead of letting it drain out onto the plaza, they want us to collect it and take it to the storm drain that's in the brick area. So that's going to require cutting across the plaza proper into the landscaped area. And that will all be coordinated. We'll have scheduling. We've talked about that, not trying to keep from having to close the plaza, do it in the first west half, have one lane open, and just take the parking in front of the courthouse, and then do the side on the plaza proper, and have the lane open towards the courthouse. So all that has been in discussions throughout, and once we have our pre-construction meeting and we get schedules from the contractor, and everything will be updated continually, kind of like the veteran cemetery.
And you can't put the storm drainage on the backside?
There's no storm drains.
There's no storm drains?
There's no storm drains. What happens, that back alleyway actually drains west and south, and there's a storm drain on the corner. And they've had issues with it in the past, and that's the reason why Town of Taos wants us to go to the storm drain that's in the plaza, in the bricked area.
Okay, thank you.
It's just communicating. It's going to take a lot of communication, but I
Yeah.
think if we do that, we'll certainly
Thank you.
be able to get through it.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay,
Really excited. We're getting
it's
going
going to be
here.
great.
Yes, thank you. So commissioners, is there a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I will make a motion to approve contract TCC 2022-33, Franken Construction Company, in the amount of $1.592695 million, inclusive of GRTs, restoration, rehabilitation, and upgrades to the historical Taos County Courthouse.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, there's a motion to approve, as stated by Commissioner O'Donnell and second by Vice Chair. And is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Anna, call for the vote, please.
Chair Behill,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes.
Great.
Madam Chair, is Commissioner Gallegos on the call?
Jason, do we know Commissioner Gallegos is, he's no longer there? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have before us is approval of memorandum of understanding between Taos County and AFSCME. One of these days I will learn how to say that. 11.
SME is the easiest way.
I know, yeah, but for some reason it doesn't flow for me. Local 1193 for a 1% para buy down. And Manager, are you going to start this? And then I see
Yeah.
Gina, our
Okay,
Human
I'll go
Resource
ahead and-
Director, is with us.
I'll go ahead and start it. As the commission's aware, we've been in negotiations with 1193 for para buy down. Originally were 0.5%, and then the suggestion of the commission, we did go back and visit with the union, and they did agree to the 1% para buy down. So that's what we're doing, is ratifying the agreement between the union, ASME Local 1193, and Taos County. So I recommend approval.
Okay, commissioners, any questions? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between AFSCME Local 1193 for a 1% para buy down.
Okay, and is there a second?
I will second.
Okay, motion to approve as stated by Commissioner O'Donnell and a second by Vice Chair. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Behill.
Yes.
And just a quick side note, thank you for that approval, and I'm sure the employee base thanks the commission as well. Another way to look at ASME is American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, and this is the second largest union in the nation compared to, let's see if Commissioner Brush can guess this one. Teamsters.
The Teamsters.
Yeah.
Okay. AFSCME?
Yeah.
AFSCME. Okay.
So yeah, so there's state employees that have this, the same union, county, municipal workers. So that's why it incorporates everybody. Well, and I'm not sure if they're the second to the Teamsters anymore, but pretty close.
Trivia there.
Yeah.
Trivia. Okay, thank you. So next we're at 9, which is resolutions and ordinances. Item A, resolution number 2022-39, authorizing Taos County to pick up an additional 1% of the municipal police member coverage plan 5 of the member contributions. And Mr. Jaramillo.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to address.
Hold on, I'm so sorry. Did we vote?
You did.
We did, okay.
Then I interrupted him.
Okay. Okay.
It has been.
So I'll take this all up at one point, and you'll have to vote on it individually. I do want to begin by thanking Ms. Elam for working with the Executive Director of PARA, Mr. Trujillo, local Taoseño, on getting these resolutions reviewed by PARA. This still needs to go before the PARA board, and they do have a meeting at the end of August. So we're anticipating that we'll have a favorable vote at the PARA board, and then we'll be able to implement it here at the local level. So there might be maybe 2 or 3 checks that the county employees will have that increase on the PARA, but once it's approved by the PARA board, we could be able to implement that. The reason you have resolutions A, B, and C is the sheriff's office is part of the police member coverage plan 5. The rest of the employee base is on plan 5, and that's number B or item B. And then C is for the detention center para coverage. So under the para guidelines there, we have 3 different coverages based on where you fall into. So, and just a point of clarification, and I know we've talked about this in the past, EMS currently is in item B. And if we do implement a fire EMS, we'd there'd be a fire plan that they would fall under.
Great.
So I do recommend approval. This is everything that we negotiated with the union, and like I said, the resolutions have been vetted by Mr. Trujillo, and again, thanks to Ms. Elam for preparing them.
Okay, thank you as well, Elam. Commissioners, any questions, comments? None?
No.
Is there a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I move we approve resolution number 2022-39, authorizing us to pick up an additional 1% of the municipal police member coverage plan 5 of the member contributions.
I will second, Madam Chair.
Okay, a motion to approve by Vice Chair and a second by Commissioner O'Donnell. Any discussion, further discussion? I just have one question here. Is this retroactive? Because I know it's a process, so it's just whenever it's approved is from that time forward. Okay.
We
Do you know
can.
how long it might take to,
Their para board meetings, August 26th. Yeah. Somehow I have it in my head that it's the 26th, but I could be
okay,
wrong
it just
about
gives us
that.
an idea of
But it
when.
gives us the end of the month, that's right. I'm thinking we have the two payrolls in August, and obviously this one at the end of the week, so there's three, and maybe the first payroll in September, so hopefully by for sure by the second payroll in September, hopefully by the first payroll in September.
Great, thank you. Call for the vote, please.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Chair Behill,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes.
Okay, and now we are on item C, resolution number 2022-41, authorizing Taos County. Did I miss? Oh gosh, they all seem the same. My apologies. Thank you. Okay, item B, resolution number 2022-40, authorizing Taos County to pick up an additional 1% of the municipal general member coverage plan, 5 of the member contributions.
And Madam Chair, I will move that to approve resolution number 2022-40, authorizing us to pick up an additional 1% of the municipal general member coverage plan 5 of member contributions.
Madam Chair, I will second.
Okay, there's a motion to approve by Vice Chair as stated, and a second by Commissioner O'Donnell. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Chair Behill,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes.
Okay, now C, and it's good to see Mr. Attio. I just got a view of him. Okay, item C, resolution number 2022-41, authorizing Taos County to pick up an additional 1% of the municipal detention member coverage plan 5 of the member contributions. Commissioners.
Madam Chair, I will make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-41, authorizing Taos County to pick up an additional 1% of the municipal detention member coverage plan 5 of the member contributions.
And I will second.
Okay, Commissioner O'Donnell made a motion to approve and a second by Vice Chair. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call for the vote. Yes.
Chair Behill,
Yes.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brush.
Yes.
Great. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. And call for the vote for the record. No, I guess not. We're good? Okay. If everyone is in agreement, and that would just leave me, so yes.
Yes, adjourn at 12:43.
12:43, thank you. Bye, Mr. Attio. Yes, and I have these two, but I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do with it because they're signed already, so is it just something that maybe you need to sign? Okay. Okay, my dear, I'll take care of these right away because I take them home when I. Okay, I've taken him home. Shannon, poor thing, she has to call me or email me. She's like, Darlene, do you have them? I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually do. Yeah. Can I ask you a couple questions, Frank?